Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Eddie Proudfoot podcast. Today, we continue our recap of the 2-year campaign I ran with all my friends. This is part 2 of 4. If you missed part 1, it's linked in the description down below this video, so go check that out if you haven't. But without any further ado, let's get into the recap. According to my little map here of the places you went, we are currently at Deardrha's bunker, and you guys left there, and you were told to huddle up by Deardrha, and then she went and then said bye, and you guys are pretty sure you got cursed by Deardrha, but you were all like, it's fine, we trust her.
Forgot about that.
And there was also a moment in there, I think, when you guys noticed the dolls, she said something about it being her hobby, and then said to Cyrus, like, I like making dolls, I'll make a doll of you.
And I think Cyrus just took it in stride, like, yeah, okay.
And then from that point on, every time you talked badly about Deardrha, you got little pricks that were inexplicable.
Yeah, good times, good times.
But
Deirdre would never. That was just
Yeah.
a coincidence.
it was just
Totally
it was just a
Absolute
coincidence,
coincidence, exactly.
especially later on when she gives Emily the doll of Cyrus.
Oh
Classic.
my god.
But you guys leave Deirdre's house, and then you go up to meet Dwergar.
Yes.
And I think Emily still was not like brought up to speed on what the whole interaction with Dwergar, or rather Daphne wasn't brought up to speed. I don't know if Emily was either, actually. So
I was not.
pulling it out of character,
bad.
no one explained to you what was going on. Was just now like the most explanation you've got about why they were talking to the dragon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I definitely thought there was more. I thought that
There's
Dwergar
quite
already
a bit there.
trusted you guys and had allied with you, but
No.
Nope. Nope.
To be fair, we did think that.
You did. You
Like,
did
we
think
certainly thought that, like, we've got a dragon army coming, and then we'll show off our dragon, and we'll have a real human army as well. Like, we thought a giant fight was coming, and it was going to be amazing.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, I'm having her use very like sheepish language, a lot of maybes, not really non-committal kind of speech the whole time. You guys are like, "Yep, we're gonna get dragons." I'm like, "Well, we'll see what happens." But she delivers her speech, which was definitely not a ripped off version of a song.
she
and
used
then,
to rule the world.
which I mean, as part of her backstory, which I don't know if will be a reveal or not at the end of this, but we'll see. So tentatively, Dwergar backstory reveal was very fitting to what happened, but I think you guys kind of know vaguely a little bit about her backstory from what her kids told you, because she said,
Right.
we're not going to help you at this time, and then flew off.
Yep.
And the whole time she's talking to you, she's staring at the ship, because Gremmgin noticed that the Black Shipping Company ship was now just like due north from Mount Craigshaft into the water. And then she says she's not going to help you. You guys encounter some of her wormling children. And does anyone remember the names of the wormlings?
Talon
I
Scales
haven't.
and Thunder Blizzard.
I
Yep.
know, I have it written
Yep.
down.
I didn't even need to look.
Come on, Joe. Obviously.
Those were our best
They're the most
buds.
important NPCs after Deirdre.
It's true.
It is.
Even though
That's
they were
very
only around for
interesting.
like what, like 4 sessions?
They were around for a while. They were probably around for hang on, I know this. I know when they left. They
we
were
kept
around
leaving them
until...
places. We'd say,
That's
you stay
true.
here while we do this, and then we'd like. So
We
they
joined
were around
back
for a
up
lot
with
of
them
sessions,
again.
but we weren't like RPing with them a lot.
Yeah,
No,
that's
they
true.
the RP probably 4 sessions, but they were with the party for 14 sessions roughly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair
because
enough.
it wasn't until you guys were teleported back to Craigshaft that you guys left them behind along with another NPC. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So you guys meet Thunder Blizzard and Talon Scales, and then Cyrus immediately recruits them as his very first followers.
And they loved him
Yeah.
so much.
They did. And
Oh.
they were wormlings,
Good
so that
times.
meant they were younger than 6. So they were very much acted like little children that were very excited about everything.
I'm so glad that I could convert them early on. Like,
Get them when
in
they're
a few-
kids, right?
in a few hundred years, they're gonna be like rhyme. They will be guardians of the House of Zoral.
It's true.
But they'll have very little knowledge of the House of Sorrel because they were only with Cyrus for like a few days when they were kids. So like
He's
they have
gonna
no
come
idea of the
back.
teachings or anything like that. It was all going over their head.
It's fine. It's fine. Cyrus will probably come back, and if not, like the rest of the followers that he collected will recruit them, or they'll intersect at some point. It'll be fine.
Hmm.
Sorry. So you guys leave the peak and then you decide to go back to I think it was the same cave that you found before, or was it a different cave on the side of the mountain?
I think it was different.
It was different.
Well,
Right, you guys found footsteps. Oh no, was that the first time you guys found footsteps that went off the edge of the cave? Oh, you found bare footsteps that went off the edge of the cave. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes. You guys followed that down, and eventually, after rigging up some rope, you went down and you encountered a werebear that was wearing a red cloak, I think. And then you fought the werebear, who was standing in front of, again, I think it was one of those big submarine hatches, except this one was a lot bigger, I think. I think it was like size large, I described it as. And you guys had a lot of trouble lifting it up, I think.
Hmm.
But eventually you found a secret door after you killed this guy, or he came up the secret door.
I think we
He
found a
came up.
secret door.
I thought he
Oh,
came
did he?
After?
Or did he open the door like trying to get away or something? I remember fighting in the staircase.
Yeah,
think-
I mean,
On
there
the
was
way out,
other-
we did for sure, and then we
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
fought more on the way out.
On the way out, I
Like,
think you guys just ran out because getting ahead of ourselves, there was a whole bunch of shadow demons that were chasing you out of the
You know
of the
what?
cave.
I
There were
think
also
we
a bunch
killed
of
him and then
chickens.
opened the door.
Yeah.
Like
Get to
I
the
have
chickens.
I have memories of this fight, and I remember I'm fairly certain we killed him and then found the door
No.
after.
We made a commotion, and then he
Yes!
came out and attacked us.
That's what it was,
Yeah.
because it was you guys were having a hard time opening the hatch, and I think it fell down and made a big loud noise. And then someone came.
Right.
There was a secret door. I also vaguely agree with Clay though, because I remember there being a mechanism, and I think Gremmgin found like the mechanism to open the door, or maybe that was to close it. I don't know.
I think that was to close it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
listened to this like a week ago, but I do not even remember it because there's so much things that happened.
Or maybe the door closed behind him, and then we had to figure out how to open it again. I don't
You know
know.
what? This is not the important
Yeah,
part of
it
this.
really
So
isn't.
so there was
Moving
a
on.
door, there was a werebear, you guys killed him, something happened. I remember his body being at the bottom of the stairs at some point. You guys went down, and then Clay, I don't think you were here for this session, but let me just check my tracker. I think you were away for this one. This was the one where they found the 12 doors down at the bottom of the stairs, and they were all unique and different sizes. And I think it was on your right side was the largest one, and then as you went around and wrapped back, it went to the smallest one. Inside the largest one, you found that room full of cultists chanting around these large crystals that went up to the ceiling in this very big room, and it seemed like there were naturally forming crystals in here, and they were glowing with the cultist chanting. Then you guys went into another room, and that's where you found all the barn animals. So there was like cows, pigs, and the chickens. And then there was another room that Hexan went into that had a bunch of food supplies, like non-perishable kind of things, and a dog. And I think you closed the door immediately because the dog was vicious and trying to attack you.
Yeah.
And there was another room you went into, and Emily, you should remember this room because I believe what was in it has haunted you the entire campaign. Do you remember
For
this
the
room?
paintings.
Yes.
It was like
so
a
I'll write
mess
that-
hall or something.
It was a mess hall, and there was
But there were
four
four
paintings.
paintings.
Yeah, I'll write down 4 paintings for later.
And there was someone from the Feywild, there was someone from the Hells. And then was it like the Shadowfell?
It was Tiamat and then some human king.
Right. And this was never explained.
This was never explained. It's never been followed up, and it
Till
was something
now.
that, yeah, but now it's going to
Until
get revealed.
Ooh.
Partially.
But you also said a couple of times that the cultists seemed like they didn't really know who they were summoning or worshiping or
Yeah,
something like
so
that.
there was me being an idiot because I think you guys hadn't figured out who the enemy was, but I had decided who the enemy was basically when you first got to the Southgate, that cultist layer that I ended up calling Southgate later on. And I knew who the enemy was. And I was like reading into lore that I had never read into before, trying to figure out this whole thing for this demon lord. And then I had gotten planes confused and I got the abyss confused with Nine Hells. So I think in that session, I
Classic.
thought it was from the Nine Hells. So there's a bunch of references to that. And then because I didn't want to retcon the whole thing, because that was so pivotal to that whole session, I just said to you, Cyrus, and this is true, and I think it worked, was cults don't reveal all of the information to everyone, and it seemed like this was a low level, or there was a lot of low ranking cultists here, so maybe they put up this just kind of to confuse them and say, yeah, there's like some devil lord that we're worshiping, and maybe they weren't completely honest with their members considering they followed a chaotic evil demon lord. So being honest and upfront with people isn't necessarily in their alignment.
So they were like,
Makes
the
sense.
hells. This one is better. This is a better option that we have offering to you.
Exactly. Oh
Yeah.
God.
And in the last door, the smallest door that had this kind of wooden apple shape to it, I think I described it as, you guys reconnected with Tori,
With
the gnome,
hey.
who was there randomly for some reason wearing cultist robes. And he tried to feed you banana bread that you guys are pretty sure was supposed to kill you.
Yep. That time we were very certain.
Because you ate it, and then he like looked at you and frowned. And was like, oh, I guess this is a dud batch.
Yep.
Yep.
Good times.
Oh,
Very good times.
the other important thing about that room, Clay, you weren't here for this session, but you did say before we started recording, this was what you wanted to find out. This is where you guys first heard the term Dixon.
Oh.
Right.
Because there was two guys talking about it, right? They were like
In the
we
mess
overheard
hall.
a conversation.
They were arguing, yeah, they were arguing because it sounded like one of them had lost it, and you didn't know what
Yes.
it was. So obviously, I'm gonna write down what is a Dixon.
And
But they
wasn't
had
it?
said, sorry, go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was
No,
gonna
no,
say,
you-
was that when we found when they were saying, oh, like the dragon stole it, or was that a bit later when we found that
No,
out?
that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
what I was about to say, so I wanted you to say it. Yes, that
Yeah.
is exactly right. They said you were supposed, it was something like, and then a freaking dragon took it or something like that, I think is what one of them said. And you guys are like, okay, so whatever a Dixon is, it's an object that they value, and the dragon took it. And you thought, oh, maybe Dwergar's working for us after all.
I guess we
Yep.
never confirmed that it was Dwergar who did it.
Yes, never.
Dragon fighting cultist Dwergar.
But
I mean, it
many
was in
dragons
close
are there?
proximity.
you did just talk to a dragon, and it seems like this happened recently, so I thought it was a valid assumption for you guys to make that
Yeah.
they were talking
She
about
had
Dwergar.
like
Mhm.
flown off
She
unexpectedly.
did. She
So it
did,
was
and
like-
it blew you guys back. You had to roll strength saves to not get knocked completely backwards, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of you passed, some of you did not pass.
We won't say who's who.
Yeah, we won't say who's who. But you guys in that room, you overheard that, and then you're like, what's a Dixon? And then I think you guys decided that you needed to stop the chanting around the crystals because you deduced that is probably bad and needs to be stopped. So you
Yep.
thought we need a diversion. So you guys spent, and I listened to this and I was laughing my ass off because
The
I totally
slaughter.
forgot how you guys,
We've released all the farm animals.
you guys spent
We
so
did.
long getting the farm animals into that room. And I remember like listening to myself and just like you guys, oh, I let the chickens out. It's just like, all right, all these chickens walk around. She's like, "Bark, bark, 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 bark."
I was
And
like
you're
at
the-
home for Christmas and I was sitting in the same room as my sister and she heard me say, "Can I try to intimidate the chicken?" and just looked over at me like,
Good.
Oh God.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. That was, I mean, surprising no one, like 99% of the sessions we had, that was all improvised. I had 0 of that planned. It was all just, directly coming right out of my arse. So it's a lot of fun.
It worked.
You guys got in there, and then you ended up slaughtering all the cultists because whatever the crystals were doing was so important they couldn't stop to fight back, so they just accepted death from you guys.
That was
And then
horrible.
It was
So-
so bad.
It's awful.
Emily, I think you came in a little later, but before we start recording, I was saying to everyone that I skipped through a lot of the combats because otherwise I wouldn't have finished listening to everything. So I skipped through a lot of that. But what I do remember is you guys just slaughtering people. And Gremmgin went off to go and silence an alarm and lied to some green cloaks and said that everything was good. And they let you keep slaughtering, and then you cleared everyone in the room and the crystals stopped glowing. Now, reference to the callback earlier of Little John, this is where you found the other cultist with that tattoo. And it was an elven lady, if I remember correctly. And she had the same tattoo Little John had.
I thought the werebear had the tattoo.
I think the werebear might have also had the tattoo as well.
Because I remember drawing the symbol from the werebear.
Let me check my notes because I remember I think all 3 of them had it. I think Little John had it. I think the werebear had it, and I think this elven lady had it too. Because I remember it being
Okay.
on elven lady, but
Mm.
I could be wrong about that.
It was like an elven lady I had cast friends on, and it didn't matter because they were all focusing so hard on the ritual.
Yeah, you had, and that's like one of the things about Friends is it's kind of a cheap cantrip because it says in it that like everything that happens from this cantrip is just up to the DM, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but yeah, they were so dedicated to what those crystals do because you guys found out I think literally in the next session those crystals were what was responsible for making the cliffs act weird, and so as soon as you did that, the cliffs stopped working.
Solomon Goodman, I think, was angry with us about that.
Yeah, I
No,
think
he
he's
was
like,
angry.
he lost a lot of guys,
Yeah.
but also that would mean that he employed neutral or evil aligned people. So really, we
I think
called
Cyrus
the-
actually
the-
made that argument, and Solomon was like,
Yeah.
they were neutral.
Well,
How dare you?
they were
Oh
good
my
enough.
God.
Might not have been great, man, but they were okay, man.
Mhm.
Okay, I found the page where I wrote down everything about the tattoo because I did write this down at the time. It was all 3 of them. So it was the werebear, it was Little John, and it was the elven lady. I just have elven
Aw.
woman written down, but I'm pretty sure it was at that place that you found it.
Yeah.
So then you guys leave that room, and I think that was the end of that session, and we start with you guys going down, and you find this huge crowd of people. So Clay, you were back for this session where you saw, I think it was Woldor McSwirly Hats preparing to give a speech.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of kerfuffle, and you guys see Wizard shining a spotlight. He gives a speech and then taps his staff, and there's this huge summoning thing where all of them are transported away, and then a bunch of shadow demons come back, but you guys are already running out of the cliffside at this point, and then you hightail it back to Craigshaft, and you guys see a bunch of black shadow demons come in and start swirling around in the sky, and this is when the sky became black for a long period of time, and the sun was completely blotted out for several days. I think it lasted for almost a week, if I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure we
Yeah.
almost died at that point because we would
Yep.
have been like, if we didn't run away, we were about to be transported to the abyss or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a close call.
Yeah.
Very much so.
That was another spot where I wasn't going to pull a punch, and if you guys stayed too long, you were going to end up in the abyss.
Yeah.
Oh,
But you guys didn't
nice.
make me do that to you, so you guys wised up and left.
Instead, you made
Nice.
a whole other campaign about it.
In a whole other campaign. Yeah, exactly. Which is what we're going to be doing soon. Well, we're already recording it, but it'll be released after this.
Woo.
Yeah, then you guys. So what happened? I don't know. What do you guys remember after this?
We ran
A lot
away.
of stuff goes down.
We
in
went
Craig.
back
Yeah,
to
it was-
Craigshaft.
Or did we go back to the other
this-
cliff first?
I don't
'Cause
think so.
so-
I remember going back to the cliff where we had dropped the torch.
I don't remember.
It might have been the
that.
same spot then. It might have been all the same.
No, because
Unless
it
there
was
were
a different. It was a different section of cliff.
I thought, okay, so which was the part where we went to Craigshaft and asked Solomon Goodman for an army, and we went with his army to another part, another gate.
That's what comes up here once you guys get back to Craigshaft.
That's-
So you guys get back to Craigshaft, and that's when all that stuff happens, Swap.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't
I don't think
recall
there
you
was
guys going
anything
somewhere else
else.
because I think you were all spooked by the Shadow Demons claim. Like, we need to go back to town immediately. We have 2 dragons with us,
Yeah.
wormlings, but you guys were like, they're dragons enough for us. So you guys went back, and then there was the whole business. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I listened to it recently and it stuck with me. The whole thing about the dragons wearing cloaks, and they're being like, we don't want to be naked. We don't want to have to put cloaks on. Why can't we just be naked? And you're like, you can't be naked in town. And then I think you stripped down naked, and the guard said you can't be naked in town. And then, like, there was this social inequality between the dragons who were like, oh, why can't you be naked, but we can be naked?
Yeah. Good times.
It was good.
Good time.
I like that
It's
part.
just everyone should wear clothes, whether you're a dragon or not a dragon. Just to
Exactly.
be safe, everyone wears cloaks.
Yeah. So you guys go into town, and I think this is where Emily sells her vials of colored liquid. This is where Cyrus preaches and converts like 1,000 people in the town, because I think he rolled really well. And this is where
That was when I was trying to get them to join the military.
yeah.
I wasn't trying to convert them to the House of Zeral. I was trying to get them to sign up for the military.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go me.
And then you guys, I think Fargrim and you trained up a bunch of fighters and rangers, right?
Yep.
You guys went to the
Yes.
barracks and you trained
Yeah.
6 fighters and 6 rangers.
Oh, and that's when I had to create all the character sheets for them.
And then we never used
And then we
them.
forgot about
Oh
them.
my
Yeah.
god. Oh,
You guys
man.
forgot. I didn't the whole time. Like, when are they going to use these guys? And then you never did. But I think in hindsight, I don't know if I'd do that again, because getting you to
That's
make
a
it was
lot.
so pointless. In hindsight,
It's a
like,
lot
you're
to
not
keep
going to
track
want to.
of.
Yeah, you're not going to want to play your character and another character. So I think that was just a bad call at the end of the day. But it was really good thematically. You guys got all these characters. Solomon came with you, and you did this whole thing. But there was a whole business with his council too. And I think
Oh,
there
we
was
cast the Zone of Truth, and we got everyone to say that they were
that was
on
the
our
second.
side.
That was when
That
you
was
come
the
back next.
Yeah, when we
Oh.
come back.
Okay.
What did they tell you this time? Does anyone
I
remember?
think
Or
we did it both times. I think there was a Zone of Truth, but there was like a guy who was casting it. who
yeah,
didn't
I
say
think you're
that
right,
they-
Emily.
Never said anything. Yeah.
I think it was twice. I think there was Zone of Truth this time. You guys go back to Southgate with Solomon Goodman. Stuff happens there, and then you come back, and there's the second one. I think you're right.
Can we
Yeah.
also just talk about the fact that when we went back to the South Gate, we had Solomon Goodman and the army just waiting and helping. It's like, oh yeah, we'll let you know when to come help us. And we told, I think, Nicole's familiar, which is a cat, just like it's like, oh yeah, no, wait for the signal. And they were just staring at a cat.
That's right, 'cause when you guys went back to town that time, you leveled up to level 6, and Gremmgin took a level in Wizard so that he could have a cat. And
Right.
I think everyone else leveled up as well, obviously. I feel like they
Al-
told you
or
something
sorry,
important.
Cyrus had his steed, that you let me have a giant owl.
Was that at this point
Verdania.
you got that? Did you get Verdania at this point? I thought that was later.
I definitely had Therdania when we were at the cultist,
You got-
because she was flying around.
Yeah, and she was telling us what
Yes,
was
you would have got it
happening.
this time, because when you went up to level 6, I think is when you were able to learn the spell Find Steed.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
my 3rd level spells.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you got Verdania, and then you guys all go out with Solomon. This is when that's what it was you learned at this time. You learned about all the cursed objects. Or you learned about the cloaks, and you learned about the cloaks being bad, and you learned about the coins being bad, but you didn't learn about the items like the chalice and the amulet yet. But you did
Yes.
learn that the coins were cursed, and this is when Solomon said you need to smelt down the cursed gold
Right.
to remove the
And you're like, why? And he's
cursiness.
like, I don't know. It removes the magic.
And it wasn't until we came back that we found out about their cursed item.
Yes, that was when you
Yeah.
came back. So you guys went
Yeah.
to the south gate, and then Solomon says to you, "Hey, so if you find this like golden rod-shaped object, steal it." And you guys are like, "What are you not telling us about this?" And then you realize that Solomon knows jack all about magic and magic items.
He just knows that it's
Yeah.
something important for them, so it's something they shouldn't have.
And that was Nicole's secret side quest that I gave her that I turned into like the main quest because I wanted her to interact with the party more. So I was like, okay, what if I make her side quest the main quest? Then maybe she'll work with the party.
And it kind of worked.
It did, yeah.
It did and it didn't. I have a reveal about that, but I think some of the party members may have figured out what happened. But yeah, anyway, so you guys go into the south gate, you fuck around and find a bunch of banana crates, go through those, find some gems, because there's gems that need to be used to activate this rod, which can do hugely powerful things. Then you guys go through all these rooms. There's a whole bunch of zombies, ghasts, and I think you guys ran away from some skeletal minotaurs at one point, but I think those were the main enemies you saw in here.
Hmm.
There
Or were
some
the
big
ghasts
guys
on
and there were some
stage?
little guys.
Yeah.
No, we definitely fought ghasts. I don't think we ran away from
I don't think
anything
we
in
ran
the
from
end.
anything.
Yeah,
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
I
you
feel
got-
like we were, fighting a
Gremmgin
lot.
ran away from something temporarily until we fought our way to him. But
There
like,
was
I
w-
think we just killed everything we saw without mercy or restraint.
Yep.
I remember there was one room you walked into and then you guys left because you didn't need to go into it to keep going. And I think there was some
Mm.
enemies that were coming around the corner, but I think you guys just decided that to keep going, you went there. There was a wedding
Was-
you walked in on too,
Oh,
where
yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
But I think we
Good
killed
time.
everybody.
you guys
Yep,
killed
yep.
everyone. Yeah, and it was just undead, so it's not like it was a real wedding. It was just kind of like one of the things
It-
about skeletons is that when left undisturbed, they just kind of do things that they were doing in their normal lives, so they can do all sorts of weird things. So I was like, why not just be like reenacting a wedding that these
That's so
skeletons were a part of?
sad.
Till
Right?
death
So
do us
sad.
part. Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
wait.
So I think at this point we were aware of the gems and we knew the gems were needed. No. Gremmgin was aware of the gems and told us that we needed to be looking for gems. So we were searching every single crate.
Yep.
And there'd be
Mhm.
like hundreds of bananas in a crate, and we'd be like, we're gonna take out every single banana and see if there's gems in this crate.
And
And
there
there
And
would
you
be
guys
like
were.
found
2 or
gems.
3
And there were. We
gems.
were rewarded for that behavior
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, it was like when you're a kid and you get the toy in the cereal box. Like you dig through all the cereal and you find like the little toy. It's like banana
Yeah.
crates for that for you guys. But
Yep.
Nice.
this is the thing I forgot that happened when you guys went back to Craigshaft before this. You found out the big baddie was Ocarus. That's when you guys
Yes.
found out.
Yes,
you found
that's
out
right.
Okay.
found that out then. So you found out that the cult was trying to summon Ocarus, the demon lord, Prince of Undeath, big bad guy. So now they had an enemy named. There's the BBEG. Ocarus, demon lord.
There we
Um,
go.
Right.
And while you guys are walking through the south gate, you're seeing, or Verdania is telling you rather, about this huge performance going on. You guys are hearing words slowly being spoken out that sound like there's a big summoning ritual about to happen.
Right.
And then
Yep.
they get to the end of it, and then the lights go down that the wizards were beaming onto the stage, and nothing happens. And you guys are like, what the hell was that all about?
Yeah.
Dress rehearsal.
Just exactly.
Well, yeah, I'll put a reveal there, but I think you guys know what was going on there.
Hmm.
And
And then
but
we
yeah,
did come.
sorry,
We
keep
did,
going.
and then I think I remember going to the other side because this is where Cyrus also cast how to find the rod, right? Because we cast
Oh, yeah. I used locate
Uh,
object so I knew where it was. And then we just beelined for it.
yes, exactly. And that's when we ran into Waldo McSwirly hat with a lot of green cloaks.
No, it
You
was a black
guys
cloak.
didn't do the rod because there was a whole discussion. I listened to this part in depth because there was a whole discussion on me saying, no, you can't do the rod because you've never seen the rod. And I use this analogy of just because you know what a rod looks like doesn't mean you can locate this rod.
Right.
Mhm.
Kind of like if
Right.
you wanted to locate books, and you're looking for a very specific book. If you do books, you're just gonna get every book. So like I was ruling it that if you just said rod and we're thinking like a 1 foot long rod of variable like thickness, that you just get like every twig and stick in the area. But I think
Right.
what you did do is you did it on Waldor McSwirly hats because you were able to be described. Oh no, Emily just changed into Woldor, so you had seen Woldor,
Yes.
and then you did that. And I believe that's how
Yes.
you guys found the rod. But it was using locate object.
Okay.
And then you guys went in
On
there.
a
Sorry,
person.
I know.
Keep
I feel like there was a different object that we.
I think it was,
Was
like
it a
just
different one?
totems more generally or something like that.
No, I don't think it was Waldorf McSwirly heads, but I'm fairly certain it was something else that we thought was there.
It might have been the
Hmm.
gems.
It might have been the gems.
gems.
I remember
be the gems.
I remember using locate object on gems a few times, but it was like for the specific gems that we needed or something like that, because Gremgin knew which gems we needed somehow.
Somehow.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah,
We
just
didn't question it.
Gremlin's minions.
Okay.
His dark bidding.
when you guys all thought you're all the main characters, but Gremgin just turned out to be the main character.
That's okay.
Very
Cyrus is
true.
okay with that.
Mhm.
Definitely not what actually was happening though. Yeah, I'd have to look back. It's funny that we were all there. I literally listened to all this and none of us can remember exactly what happened. But anyway, you guys find it somehow. Gremgin goes into the room and I think tries to convince them to get the rod for you. Fails it the first time, but somehow convinced the green cloak. The green cloak brings you the rod. You guys take it, try and kill the green cloak, but then he teleports away, starting the annoying pattern of green cloaks and black cloaks just teleporting away whenever you seem like you're having the edge on them in a fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you guys eventually get back to Solomon, who was waiting there the whole time. And I think one of the rangers died because I rolled to see, because eventually you left them there so long that some zombies would get to them. And I think it was Ranger number 2 or Ranger number 1 died.
I think it was
But-
Ranger 2.
Yeah.
It's
Ranger
tragic.
number 6 lived and became a legend. I think Clay put him in charge of the military later on when more events transpired, but
Your time has come, Ranger number 6.
Exactly.
you're no
have
longer just a
graduated.
background
Chosen
character. Yeah.
Remember
Choose
my
a
ranger
name.
doing very well and being
Yeah.
a true hero.
What a guy.
Oh, what a guy.
So you guys left
Um,
the South Gate. Sorry, keep going.
Does it make sense to read out the thing that we were hearing? Like,
I'll
we-
read. So it's a song, and I don't know what copyright things are, but just to be safe, so the song is called Ladies and Gentlemen, and it's by the band Saliva, and it has 2 verses with a chorus in it. And I just used the verses, and the reason was because when I first listened to the song, I thought, this sounds a lot like it has undead themes to it. So those first 2 verses included things like your ears and your eyes will be bleeding. And I was like, this sounds like something that happens to someone who's dying. And then it kind of like gave me this idea for this. So then I wrote out the last part, which was like, I think, ladies and gentlemen below, thank you for attending the show. Now prepare yourselves to grow from the gift you are about to be bestowed. No, from the gift we are about to bestow. You'll feel your skin turn cold as your bodies accept their new mold.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of me trying to write a verse that was like the rhyme pattern of the others and also was going to describe the events that were about to happen,
Hmm.
which I think you guys all know about now, but we'll get to those fairly shortly. So you guys leave the South Gate, you go back to Craigshaft. This is when you have the second zone of truth, and they're like, okay, these are all these cursed items that we know that Ocarus has. They're these totems, and if there's too many of them in the material plane, then Ocarus will have too much power here and be able to be summoned or something like that.
Yep.
And who wants to list off what all the cursed items were that were
Well,
totems of Ocarus?
specifically, they thought if once there were 17 items assembled, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what they told you. That's what they thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we had the chalice, which
Hey.
Hexan had,
Yeah.
the amulet, which Gremgin had,
Yeah.
the sword
sword
and
and shield.
shield, which were combined somehow.
They were a set.
Yeah.
Yep.
There
Which
was,
Tifala-
Orchid.
there was the orchid, yes.
Yes.
And then the rod.
And the rod.
And then the rod.
Yeah.
Yes. Which you were told was able to cast Wish. If you used all of the gems, it would use the rod, so the rod would be gone. But you could also use the rod to amass a huge amount of undead, I think. I think it was like every skeleton or corpse within 300 feet in a radius around you would be raised and under your control.
Nice.
And that just
It was
burned up the
bad.
gems. It didn't burn up the rod. But you guys never used it, so you never actually did that. Because you were told if you use the items, it gives more power to Ocris. And there were 2 party members who were currently using the items.
Like, I'm pretty sure that someone used the rod. I'm pretty sure Gremmgin used the rod to cast Wish at some point.
Gremmgin did use the rod to cast Wish at some point.
But I don't know what he wished for, and it was bugging
I
me for the
know.
longest
Okay, that's
time.
gonna be a reveal because I thought the party figured that out, but I'll put that a reveal. What did
Oh.
Gremmgin cast Wish on?
I
That's
don't
how
even
Gremmgin
remember
died.
Gremmgin casting.
I know,
Wish.
like which part was
So,
this at?
Gremmgin did
he
this
stole
in
it from me at some
secret
point.
because
Oh.
Nicole said to me that she was upset that the party was taking her, like Gremgin's quest away from Gremmgin. Like obviously Nicole was chill with it, but Gremmgin was like, "This is my thing. Why is the party taking my thing? I finally got the rod I've been seeking. They haven't been seeking it as long as I have." So Gremmgin stole it back when you guys were up back on the path towards Deardrha's house after
Yeah.
you guys left Craigshaft. So that's when it got
Right,
stolen.
the sock.
The sock was where Gremmgin stuffed all of the gems, which you guys
Ah,
found when
okay.
Gremmgin died a little while later.
Right.
Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. Gremmgin dies.
Oh no.
I think I said that at the very beginning that Gremmgin dies, but
Yeah.
anyway, when you guys were in Craigshaft, they told you about the items and they did the big zone of truth that was kind of like a not real zone of truth. It was a cultist version of it because you guys actually had to tell the truth rather than you just couldn't lie. It was you felt compelled to be honest in there. It was not like you could not lie sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Gremmgin didn't tell you this at the time, but Gremgin's cat went under the table and noticed this purple pulsing goo that was under it and was like, "Oh, that's weird," and looks evil. And when you guys went around and asked everyone who said they had the best interest of the town at heart, I think not everyone said something, and you guys realized that later on. Like 2 of the wizards didn't, or one, the wizard casting the spell
It
didn't
was
speak
the
up.
wizard casting the spell. We're like, hey, that
Yep.
guy didn't say it. And he was like, sorry, I was focused on casting the spell. And we're like, oh, makes sense.
Notably, Gremgin also didn't say it, but the whole party seemed to ignore this because Gremgin was being restrained by some guards at the time.
We're like, obviously
Yep.
Gremmgin doesn't have the best interests of the town.
Yeah.
We know this.
What
We
are
just
we,
accept
nothing
it.
stupid?
new in that.
And
Oh,
I
God.
think it's at this point that they gave you the orchid that they had, because I think Conrad, you had done divine sense and realized that there was something really bad around, and that's when they
Yep.
told you all this stuff. And then
Mhm.
that's when you got Samuel, the half orc that was some 14-year-old intern guard kind of thing. And he's just now responsible for this orchid that if it dies of natural causes will potentially help the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Classic 14-year-old intern type stuff.
Was
Exactly.
he Solomon Goodman's son? I need to know.
No. We know Solomon Goodman had a different son. That comes up later.
You could
Yeah.
have many sons.
But like, was Samuel his son? You
No,
can have
Samuel
more than
was-
one son.
Samuel was not his son.
Yeah,
I-
well,
I
Daphne
never-
still thinks he is.
I never intended that to be a thing, but like a lot of the stuff that ended up happening plot wise, Emily, was just things you guys suggested, and then me like ruminating on it and be like, yeah, maybe that is actually what's happening. And then sometimes I'd already have an idea what's happening. You guys be like, is this happening? I'm like, nah. And other
Of
times you
course.
guys cracked it immediately. Like Emily, I think you figured out very quickly what the cliffs were doing before you guys actually were told what they were doing. You're like, I think it's alignment. It's like, yeah, it's alignment.
Yep.
What else happened in the town that time? I think that was all the notable stuff. Oh, you guys remember what they told you to do with the cursed items, right?
Throw it in the
Throw it in the
volcano.
volcano.
That's right. Yeah.
Good times.
Or
So
bury
that's
them
why
at the
we-
bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why we started our trek east to
Mhm.
get to the volcano.
Well, first, you guys thought that you needed to collect more cursed items because you didn't want to be doing all these ferry trips back and forth. So you decided to go to the North Gate and see if they had any cursed items there. But this is where the party started getting derailed, because I think this is the first session that Hannah was back because she was away for a while. And then Hannah came back, and I think, Emily, this is the one session you missed. So we had just Conrad, Nicole, Swap, and Clay, or no, Swap, you weren't there for this either.
Yeah.
It was just Clay and Hannah. Yeah, so we only had 4 people. But you guys went up, started going up towards Deardrha's. Didn't get all the way, kind of camped in this little like alcove into the cliff kind of thing. And it was there where Gremmgin stole the rod back and used it to cast Wish, unbeknownst to the party. And then the party spent probably 45 minutes trying to figure out where the hell the rod went. And
I
Clay,
think in us in
sorry.
real life, because I think I was here for this. I think us in real life, we were like, well, Gremgin stole the rod, probably.
Yeah.
But like,
No,
Yeah.
Emily, you weren't there for this session. You were there for
thought
the
I
next one, but
was.
this was the one you missed.
Oh, okay.
I can go back and re-listen to it just to make sure, but I think yeah. It's
I mean, we
it's
definitely would have recapped it.
yeah, I think we probably recapped it and
Possibly, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But at any rate, like it was super obvious that Gremgin had stolen it.
Well,
But
wasn't
none
that
of
the
us
same
were.
session or night that Stewart ran away?
Stewart ran away at the beginning of the session. So
Right. And
what
so
happened was
maybe like he took the rod while he left. We weren't really keeping track of our cursed items
Well, he
very
did
well.
take most of my money when he left.
Yeah, there you go.
He's such
I was
a
like,
jerk.
we wake up and Stewart's gone. He had lived for the last week in my backpack, and he'd be like sleeping, and I could hear him snoring while we're fighting. And then suddenly he leaves, and most of my money is gone. And at this point, I was the poorest party member. Like all the money the party had made had been on days where I was gone, and I had nothing. I had nothing at all, and he took it away from me.
Savage.
so
After you'd been carrying him around too.
Well, he was charging for healing at that point.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
so-
I paid him a lot of money for that.
so-
so in game that was 4 days from when Alex was still around to when Stewart was an NPC.
Oh, okay, 4 days. That's not
Yeah.
too bad.
4 days of him living in your bag. A lot happened in that 4 days though.
Clearly.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys were trying to figure out where it was. Like, no one saw Gremgin do it. I think Tifala cast Speak with Plants, and they said that they saw no one come in and out of the cave, making you think that it couldn't have been taken by someone. But you guys like searched around trying to find it, deduced that you weren't going to find it because it could be wrapped in lead, because apparently magic items and detect magic is like radioactivity, and you can block it with thin sheets of lead.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
I remember Cyrus, or at least I, was thinking that, well, the cultists are teleporting whenever they don't, like, whenever they run into issues, they can track us because they can track cursed items. So they just teleported, took the rod, and teleported away again. So I was like, well,
And
it's
that
just
could have been a possibility.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that could have
Mhm.
been what happened.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Oh well.
But
It's
yeah,
not
then
what
you
happened,
guys,
apparently, but
It could have though, for sure.
yeah.
I think that was the majority of that session, and then you guys went up to Deardrha's. I think just to
Yeah.
stop again for a rest. I don't actually remember why you guys went to Deardrha's. I don't know
Does
if the
there
party
need to be
does.
a reason?
Yes.
Daphne was the reason.
And Daphne was definitely the reason.
Yeah, because I remember Daphne was upset that you guys didn't stop on the way back to see Deardrha. And then Cyrus was like, we'll come back later to see Deardrha.
I did say that quite a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. And then this is where you guys took her on her voyage off of the mountain.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And you stayed with her.
Yes.
She made you the stew that gave you temporary hit points, I think.
Yep.
Or no, that might have been. Was that this time? One of the times she made you a stew that
It
gave you
might have
temporary
been.
hit points.
Hmm.
But yeah. You guys interact with her. She gave you a lot of important information then, because she started talking to you guys about the cult and telling you information about the cult, because Deirdre's like, I just know these things.
She's so
I've been around for a
wise.
while.
Yeah, exactly. And then you guys were like, all right, we'll take you home. And then she said, okay. And then you're like, but we have to stop in Craigshaft first because I have some business, is what Gremgin said. I have business in Craigshaft. And none of you knew what Gremgin meant, but way back when you were in Craigshaft and Gremgin was being restrained and you were learning about the cursed items, Gremgin failed the save on is Solomon a disagreeable NPC? And then was like, I'm going to murder Solomon, which was probably like one of the more interesting inflection points in the plot that I did not see coming, but it worked really well. sort of, kind of, maybe not.
Sort of.
It
I mean-
derailed really well.
Worked
Yeah.
pretty poorly for the world in which our characters find themselves.
But it was a
Yep.
super fun session
Oh my
Yeah,
god, that
absolutely.
session was
because
hilarious.
this is the third point when I ripped off a song for the point of making a plot happen, and no one here knows this except Daphne and Emily. I don't know if you know that the thing I sent you over message was completely ripped off from a song.
I did not know that.
So I took the Metallica song The Unforgiven and then ripped out the chorus and then changed all the pronouns to be female instead of male, and then that was the story I sent you.
Oh man. That one it cut me deep.
I know. So because like Emily or Daphne was a warlock and your patron was some archfey, and I think when I asked you, you said you didn't really have a clear idea on who your patron was. It was just some archfey, or did you have a
No, I knew who he was. I just it's sort of like with everything, like I very naively trusted him. Like I didn't actually know like what his actual alignment was. I thought he was just kind of tricksy.
Yeah,
Like
I think
was,
when
but he
I
might have actually been evil, but I wasn't actually sure.
if I remember correctly, when I looked into it, assuming I looked into it, I thought it was chaotic neutral.
That
But I
would
think
make
your
sense.
alignment might have just been chaotic neutral.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think everyone found this out later, but it's kind of revealed, kind of not. The patron visited Emily in a dream and said, "You need to save this child from certain doom." And it wasn't clear on how Emily was supposed to save the child. But then later, when you guys went to Craigshaft, Deardrha confessed to Daphne that she was missing something in her life and wanted to be a mom. And just asked Emily if she could help her out with that.
I was
And
like,
then
what
Emily
a
said,
wild
I
coincidence.
yeah.
Right.
There's a bigger reveal for that I'll put down here.
Yep.
So Deirdre baby.
Bigger
Yeah,
reveal.
So instead of saving the child, you solidified its fate.
Did the opposite of saving
Yeah.
the child.
Well, it's hard to say because the kid could have died in the whole Craigshaft massacre.
Yeah, which
I
was
guess
about to take
also, like,
place.
Is the kid dead
No.
No, Hags
if it
aren't
gets
dead.
reborn?
Yeah.
No, we saw the child be born again
There we go.
Yeah.
later.
I
When
mean,
The
do we
child
see-
is fine.
We know
child
that the
is fine.
child was born again, and we know that the child's parents are gone now.
One of them was gone, but yeah, we'll come back to that. Yeah, the mom lived, but the dad
yeah,
died. And
yeah. I feel like there's
it-
some context that needed for all that.
So yeah, so let's
Yeah.
get into what happened this night in Craigshaft.
Yeah.
So this was probably one of the more pivotal moments, and it's when chapter 2 ends and chapter 3 begins. So this is the end of chapter 2 now. You guys go into Craigshaft, it's late at night. You guys talk to the guard, they show you how to get to Solomon's house because you guys need to speak to Solomon. It's late at night, he's home. You guys go there. Gremmgin, while you guys are talking about how to get in, just has their cat sneak up and unlock the door and then go into or check on where Solomon is, and then Gremmgin sneaks off, goes upstairs, poisons Solomon, and then everyone comes up and Cyrus saves Solomon. You guys all talk to Solomon for a while he sits there in his jammies.
Oh,
Do you guys
God.
remember this conversation with Solomon?
Poor
Vaguely.
Solomon.
Vaguely.
It's in his
Um,
jammies. He
Well,
has
and-
jammies. You can't kill someone who wears jammies.
You absolutely
horrible.
can. That's the best time to kill them,
Oh,
apparently.
Just ask
God.
Gremmgin if you could give someone in jammies.
It's so easy.
It is
was.
very easy.
God.
But I think Gremmgin had told you guys about the weird goop, and you guys were like, "Oh, there's some ominous stuff going on with Solomon's inner circle." So you talk to him, and he says that he's had problems in the past, but he's made sure that everyone's vetted and good. And you're like, "Well, we need to talk to the wizards." And he's like, "Oh, well, they're downstairs. They sleep in my house for some reason."
Right.
Makes sense.
And there was this weird, funny thing where Solomon said, "Oh yeah, it's like, don't mind it. It looks like a dungeon. It's I bought the house this way. I let them live here for free. It's not what it looks like." And you guys were like, "This looks really weird." It's like, I don't charge them rent. It's fine.
It's definitely exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then you guys went down there, and I think Cyrus cast Zone of Truth, real Zone of Truth this time. And two of the cultists failed the save. Two of them succeeded, but the one cultist that was, or sorry, not cultist, the four magic
Wizards.
guys that were part of his inner circle, the one that was a cultist failed the save, and he was a black cloak as it turned out. And then he didn't have to do this, but it was more of like in my head I was thinking in that scene in every single hero movie when the villain just tells you his entire plan because it's
He
too
was
late to
bragging.
stop him. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
bragging.
Yeah.
So he told you like, haha, Waldor McSwirly Hats is in the center of town right now, and you won't be able to stop us. Yeah. And then you guys ran to the center of town. Gremmgin ran up and then rolled a nat 20 on his I think persuasion to convince Waldor not to do whatever he was going to do. And he said, you know what? Tonight's not the right night. You're right. And then they just completely dispersed. And you guys were like, well, that was too easy. And then you went back and then saw that there was a big wizard battle going on in the basement between the newly discovered Black Cloak and the three other wizards there. I think they ended up killing him or he teleported away. I don't know if you guys
I
remember
think
what happened.
teleported away.
Teleported away.
It's
Yeah.
on brand for them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we managed to get him to not teleport the first time he tried it. I think someone had counterspell, but then he did
Yeah.
it the second time, and then
Yeah.
It's one of
Yeah.
my 2 spell slots that I
That's the problem with
wasted.
warlocks. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yep.
And then it's during all this commotion that Gremmgin escapes and then decides to just slit Sullivan's throat because he went back to sleep. And then
In
this
his
time,
Oh, there's a
jammies.
battle going down in his basement. So I'm just gonna take a nap.
he's
Like,
Oh
this-
my god.
Solomon was not a helpful guy, to be fair. He
Oh
wasn't
my
contributing
God.
much.
Yep.
he was
Yep.
tired. It was the middle of the night.
He
And
had
his
like
town
his
was about to be like
his like sleeping cap on, you know, with like the long
God.
tassel with the pom pom.
Yeah.
useless.
And then
But-
Gremmgin kills him. And then Emily, you were the one who came up and you smelled blood. And then Gremmgin came out of the bedroom and it's like, everything's fine.
It was my one successful insight check ever,
Yeah.
which is very exciting.
Which is unfortunate because Gremmgin's deception is so high.
Yeah.
But I think you guys all went up and then eventually were like, yeah, Gremmgin killed it. But Gremmgin's like, no, and just continues to gaslight you up until the day he dies.
I'm
Yep.
pretty sure I did another zone of truth, and we all had like a little circle time.
And we
Yeah.
all held hands and stuff.
We all
Yep.
held hands and was like, all right, come on, Gremgin, like you gotta tell the truth here. And if you don't say anything, then it's like admitting that you did it. And then Gremgin doesn't say anything. It's like, all right, Gremgin.
Okay. I think let's, and then it's like, okay, let's move on now.
I think in that zone of truth, you asked Gremmgin, I think Daphne asked Gremmgin if he was going to kill you guys. And Gremgin's like, no, you're my friends. I wouldn't kill you guys.
Yeah, it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, the only reason we're really concerned is because we don't want you to kill us. Nice.
Yeah. Gremgin's like, no, I won't kill you. I'm not sure why, but I won't.
We're
Meanwhile,
not
the DM
mad,
Oh.
Gremgin. We're just afraid.
Yeah, we're
I'm
afraid of
just
the assassin.
disappointed.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
exactly. And
Oh.
I think that was it for the big events that happened that session. Oh no, how could I forget
No.
the baby getting stolen?
Yes.
Yes.
Emily, do you remember
Oh my
exactly how you
God.
did this? Because it was genius and I did not realize how you were doing it when you did it. And I was like, this is amazing.
Don't even remember the details of what I did. I
Let
just
me
remember that I
regale you,
slipped
then.
out.
So you slipped out, went into the house disguised as Solomon Goodman because
That's
it
right.
turns out that you went into a house and it just happened to be the neighbors of Solomon Goodman, the house you saw in your vision. You went in there and it was a family of half orcs and they had just had a baby, like just had the baby at home. I think
They
I
were so
described it
happy.
and you like rummaged around, got familiar with the home. You're making notes about where places were, like entrances and exits. And then you left and came back later, I think disguised as someone else, and you broke into the house, stole the baby, and then also looked for evidence that they were bad people and found like a bunch of
Just in case.
I think there was like a bunch of like petty crime stuff they had committed. I can't remember exactly the
Forgery,
details
I
of what you
think,
found.
was one of them.
Yeah, I think they were like low-level thieves and forgers. Yeah, was kind of the impression you got from the evidence you found in their home. So you up and took the baby. And then the session ends with you returning to Deardrha with the baby, and then her being like, "Oh, thank you." And then eats the baby in front of you in one gulp, and then you're just gagged. And then I think we ended the session with Cyrus coming up being like, "Where's the baby?"
Because I had gotten Fargrim and Cyrus to make a little like Bjorn for me to carry the baby around in.
Right.
And so they came back with like the materials for it. The baby was gone.
That was pretty
Oh my
sad.
god.
But also the
that
baby was green, so Cyrus thought it was my baby because he didn't know how babies were made.
Cyrus still doesn't really know how babies are made.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh my
But no, I
god.
think that was the first time that I was sad enough that I became a winter Eladrin instead of a spring one.
Right, and then you changed it to your blue form.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh man.
that was pretty
Blue.
sad.
And yeah, you guys
Oh my god.
still kept Deardrha around. There was a second there where I thought you were gonna abandon Deardrha. I'm like, oh, finally, they're gonna fight this hag encounter I had planned from way back when. I was like, no, we're still gonna escort her to our house. And I think I forgot to mention this, but she had a little carriage that Verdania was carrying her from. So it was like a seat, and then Verdania could grab onto it with her talons and carry her.
It was like a hot air balloon.
And then I think she demanded that the cat come with her and that she fly at your guys' level so she can talk to you the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
She didn't like not being part of the conversation. She's like, I get so lonely up in the clouds.
Oh,
She did not
Oh,
deserve to
man.
be with us.
And then it is at this point that you guys stumbled upon some weird what looked like sacrificial site that was abandoned, and it reminded Fargrim, Gremmgin, Tifala, and Hexan of the summoning place you found near Dwarf back at the beginning of the campaign. You guys remember that?
Right.
This is where you found.
Really
Oh, you
recall.
weren't there for this one swap. That's what it was. So
Okay,
you wouldn't remember this
yeah.
because you weren't there. We had Fargrim, Daphne, Cyrus, and Gremmgin for this session. And I
see.
think Clay, this was the session when you were out of town, and I think you had spotty internet where you were, so you were cutting in and out for part of it.
Oh,
So I think you missed
okay.
part of the session, but you were there for the beginning of it. And I think at one point you like couldn't speak anymore on the video call, so you
And I was
you were just in
typing.
text. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you guys basically go through this process. You're like, we're not gonna figure out the puzzle. You realize that the stone tablet moves off and there's a nice hallway, so you walk through there. And then you meet Tim, who Deardrha, I think, did Deardrha warn you about Tim beforehand or no?
Yep.
yeah.
She said Tim's a jerk. Don't trust Tim.
Absolutely. But then
And
Tim turned out to be a woman.
yeah,
Whose
Tim
name
was
was
actually
not
Tamara. Tim's name was Tamara. Yeah, not Tim. It turns out Deardrha just calls Tamara Tim because Deirdre's a jerk.
Yep. Just two jerks jerking it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you guys get teleported to her house, which is somewhere around here, I guess. And then you guys go through all her stuff. She gives you a bunch of scrolls and these special triangle stones that turn out just to be like cell phones that you can only contact her through. And you guys
Nice.
found out a bunch of stuff about Okra. She told you what a Dixon was, but I don't think anyone was actually satisfied with the answer.
She said it was an obfuscation. It's one of those words I can't pronounce.
Obfuscation.
Obfuscation. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an obfuscation of the truth, is what she said. A Dixon can mean anything you want it to mean.
Pretty sure she was just making that up.
Basically,
Yeah.
she just said it's a thing.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
did. She said basically it's a noun. And
Yeah.
you guys were like, you're fucking useless.
God damn it, Tim.
But we'll take all your stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then you tried to
Oh, God.
ask her for information about Okras because she said she's been studying Okras forever. And then when you asked for information, she's like, oh, I'm not going to give you any, really.
What a jerk.
She was so like helpful, but
Oh.
not helpful at the same time. And there's a reason for that. And Emily, I think you kind of know because she told you in that session that her patron was Okras.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll put
And somehow I forgot to tell everyone about it. Like I never directly said that I told anyone. So,
But it was like ex-patron, right?
well, still
Oh.
actively being patronized by or I don't know if it's being patronized or patronizing. Well, you know, when you go to a store and you're a patron of the store, you've patronized the store.
You know, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
what I would
I-
have used the word for, but okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's technically correct. We just don't use
No
that
one,
in modern
no one
English.
says that anymore. No,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, my understanding
Okay.
was she was kind of like, yeah, no, I'm still like he's still my patron, but like I'm doing it for like research and my own reasons. Like it's not
Yeah.
because I'm evil or anything.
I
Like I'm
thought
just doing my thing.
I thought she said like she was trying to summon Ocarus just to steal something from him.
She wanted
I think
his
she wanted to-
wand.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Because Ocarus has, I think she told you this at the time, that he has a wand that is basically a skull with a spine attached to it, and she wanted the wand for herself because anyone can attune to this weapon and use it.
She
Um,
wanted a skull with a spine attached to it, and we were like, she's probably okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, who wouldn't want
Guess
that
what?
though?
I've got one of those.
Oh my god.
We can trust this person.
We all have one of those now that you think
Uh,
now that I
She
Just
just wanted a
hand it out.
spare.
Excellent point.
So you guys got all these magic scrolls from her, and they were different than regular spell scrolls because anyone could use them, even if they weren't a caster that knew the spell, and if it wasn't the level that it was at. So it was a stupidly broken magic item that I gave you guys because of what was about to transpire.
Mhm.
Yep.
that-
Because you were just like, it's gonna like it was you were gonna give an encounter throw an encounter that was too hard. So you're like, well, we gotta have something.
So
'Cause what?
yeah, I'll put that as a thing for later.
You see, this helps clear a lot of stuff because I didn't know anything about Tim. I just like, oh, this. It was just like I thought that he was. Again, I didn't know it
Yeah.
was a her.
Yeah.
he was a great dude that helped us out by giving us scrolls. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
sure.
And I think the interactions with Tim after this session were very minimal. Like Tim just showed up a
Mhm.
little bit and kind of talked to you guys very vaguely. But I think you guys
Yeah.
interacted with Tim like only for a few more minutes in other sessions after this. I don't think there was much interaction.
Yep.
Other than like, Tim, please save us, and Tim being like, lol, no.
Came so late.
That
I
was so
could,
funny.
But I don't want to.
Well, we'll come back to that. But basically, like, I think it was Tim can teleport, but Tim can teleport only a certain number of times a day. And it turns out that Tim had used all of her teleportations.
And it turns out that number of times per day is 1.
A certain number. Once.
But then she takes you back to Deardrha, and Deardrha says Tim's the worst, and be like, did Tim give you phones? They don't work, and then demonstrated how they don't work for Deardrha. Just going, Tim, Tim.
Classic.
And then from there, does anyone remember, or I guess the 3 people that were there that session, do you remember where you guys went next? The most iconic, wholesome
The
place in the
ranch?
game. Yeah, Bounce
Yeah.
Stables.
Oh,
With
Bruce
with
Lucky.
Bruce Lucky, yeah, the most down to earth NPC you guys encountered.
A modest man.
A modest man, yes, indeed, quite. No, that was fun. And then Gremmgin derailed that. And honestly,
steal a
that's not
horse.
Gremgin's fault. That's my fault. I should have called it before all of that happened in that session. We were like at the end of it, and it was just like, yeah, we could have called this here, but I was like, no, it'll be fine. You guys will get the horses and you'll leave. And then it's like, no, it's not that simple. It's never that simple.
So what
Not
happened?
with a kleptomaniac.
So this session swap, he went around and he was like introducing you to all the horses, and just to like do the impression, he'd be like, this here's Charlie. Charlie's a fine horse. And he'd walk over to other horses and be like, this horse name is Dipshit. He is an okay horse. And he just like went around to different horses and introduced you guys
So
and said like,
bad.
I remember one point Gremgin asked if he could rename the horse, and he's like, I prefer you use the names. They know the names. And then he demonstrated how if you called them by their name, they would come right to you. And he walked away and he just said, Buckwheat, mare boy. And then the horse would run towards him. There was also the cats in the barn, because he said that they have the cutest and cuddly cats. And I think, Emily, you're like, can I meet the cats? He's like, of course you can meet the cats. And then do you guys remember one of the cats?
It was
Asmodeus?
Asmodeus.
Yeah.
oh.
And
Asmodeus.
music started playing.
Yeah, all the satanic music as this cat floated down from the rafters. And I think Cyrus cast remove curse on the cat. And then
No,
it
that was
became
me.
Oh, that is you.
Really?
You had remove curse at that point, and you cast it, and it just like instantly went away and became a normal cat. And it's like, oh, I think you'll miss flying around.
I felt kind of bad afterwards. I was like, I'm sorry, Asmodeus.
Probably
Looked
for
like
the
you were
best
having a
that you
good time.
uncurse the cat.
Oh boy.
Oh.
But then Gremmgin decided that he didn't want to pay for it, and he Bruce was giving you guys really good deals. He was basically, the way the prices worked for the horses, he wanted a down payment that you got back. And then afterwards, he'd take away money from it for how many days you had the horses. So it's kind of his insurance. If people run off with his horses, then he has some money. But if you guys come back in a certain number of days, you'll get most of it back. And it was 1 gold a day, I think, for the horse. And he told you that he's not trying to rip you off or anything. He makes a modest living for a modest man. And Gremgin said, what if we just don't come back with the horses? He's like, I prefer you come back with my horses. I'm going to charge you double, little man, for saying that. And yeah, I think after that,
but
it
then
kind of
Gremgin just
escalated.
didn't want to give the deposit, so Cyrus was like, okay, I'll pay for Gremgin's. Yeah.
And he
Yep.
also destroyed your net because you tried to trap him in a net as he tried to run off with the horse.
Yeah.
There was that whole
Gremgin was trying to
debacle.
steal a horse, so I threw a net around Gremgin and the
Oh my
horse.
god.
And it kind of
Yeah.
worked.
Yep.
And then next session, we kept going with it, and I kind of diffused the situation by having Bruce Lucky in Thieves' Cant give Gremgin an assassination mission of, hey, there's these people in Magisburg that owe me money. They owe me about 150 gold. Please rob them. Take everything you can. Give me the 150 gold. Keep the rest for yourself. Which is what led the next session where you guys went to Magisburg, and Gremgin's like, I got business in Magisburg. And that's where you guys went and found
Oh.
Jeffrey Jefferson and Jeb, which I don't think I gave Jeb a last name. But it can be
Well,
Jefferson
probably
because they were
Jefferson
similar.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this makes
And
a lot
these-
more sense now. I did not know that Gremgin had this side mission.
Remember, because I overheard it. And Gremgin's like,
Yeah.
I have business, and I was like, yeah, you're gonna go rob these people.
Because you also took a couple levels in Rogue. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, so you heard it,
god.
you're like, I know exactly what you're doing, Gremgin. Don't lie to me. And then you guys go there and you find out from Deardrha, because you're still escorting her, that they're her kids. And this is when you start finding out Deardrha has lots of kids. I think this is also when you find out that there's hags everywhere. And there's the network of secret hags that are just always watching.
And we've been seeing them in puddles and trees.
Yeah. And then
I
I think
loved
Emily,
that.
you tried to talk to them, but they just like went away.
Oh, I
Good
love that.
times.
Oh.
And then do you guys remember the tomfoolery that took place in Magisburg and the events that transpired?
You mean when we got Gremgin land? Because
No, that was in Grassland. This is
that
when
was
you
a different-
guys this is
oh
when you guys tortured a child, or not tortured, tormented a child,
yeah.
broke and
That.
enter into a home and stole from them. I don't think you actually murdered them. But
Just
before
No.
you
Took
Oh,
normal
yeah.
stuff that you would take when you're in a house.
Mhm.
Like, you don't leave a house empty-handed. That's just weird.
that's just rude, right? Yeah.
You're adventuring.
Exactly.
So
All I
think you guys
remember
were-
is that
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
around this time I switched from drinking alcohol to being obsessed with coffee.
Was that this time?
Right.
I think it was around this time because it was around the time when we met Deardrha's daughter.
That
Jeff.
I think it wasn't until after you guys went back to Craigshaft pretty soon here that you started drinking coffee. And there's a reason for that.
Oh, okay.
I think it was after that huge fight that took 5 hours. That's coming up pretty shortly here. I think that's when you stopped drinking coffee. Or that's when you started drinking coffee over. No. I'm wrong. You're right. Because there was the whole thing at Mount Stables where you guys went and sat in the farmhouse with his wife before you left. And there were all those knickknacks in the house, and she made you guys tea and coffee. No, you're right, Swap.
Yes, yes, that's
you're totally right.
exactly it.
That's what happened. That was the part that was missing from there. Yeah. So
Yep,
important to the
yep.
plot is that you guys sat in
Of
that
course.
room. Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, I think that was the first time, not the second time you were there. But when you went to Magisburg, you went to the government building because you were told that Jeff worked for the government. And you went into the room where Jeffrey Jefferson was, and that's time you found out that Jeff is actually a girl, not a boy. And then you were asked if you were William Jensen.
Right.
Because apparently he had a 2:00 with Jeffrey Jefferson about getting some property rezoned.
Right, which is why I thought that that's where we got the land, because well, if Gremmgin just pretends to be William Jensen and just own William Jensen's land.
Yeah, there was a whole thing where you guys could have just like took the land that he was trying to get rezoned. Yeah.
Yep.
But Emily, do you remember changing into Deardrha and harassing this poor lady?
Yeah. Well, I think I just said something like, "Why don't you ever call your mother?" But in Deirdre's voice.
You did, and it utterly terrified utterly terrified this seeming elf in front of you, because I don't think at this point you guys had really realized Deirdre was a hag. I think some of the party members had, but I think some of them were still not sure. I think everyone knew as a player, but I don't think the characters knew.
I don't
think
think
it's
any
pretty-
of
I
us
think
knew
that's
at
right.
that point.
Well, when you saw Deirdre eat the baby, I'm sure you might have
Oh.
had your suspicions.
After
Yeah.
the baby eating, that's right.
Cyrus didn't see that, and I think he just thought you lost a baby. It never really got brought up again, and so it's just like, all right, moving on.
It's true.
There was
yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah, because only Gremmgin and Daphne saw the baby get ate. The other party members weren't there for it.
No.
But they tell us though.
No, the baby
don't
just
know.
got
I
I
lost.
think I
think
and
just
no one ever
started
said
crying
anything.
and didn't say anything about where the baby had gone.
I don't think the party actually told him.
No, I don't think so.
I think it was kind of
my God.
assumed that at some point the party members did tell everyone, because everyone knew what happened to the baby. And I think
At least
some
by
point-
the time of birth, we kind of knew
Yeah.
what was going
Yeah.
on.
But you guys, she says she'll meet you at her house. Jeff does. And then so you go to the house, and then you meet Jeb, who is just a child elf. And I think I described her as being like 60, but that's still like pretty kid for an elf. I'm not sure. You guys kind of scared her a little bit. Gremmgin and Daphne searched the entire house. You found a lot of good stuff. I think you found a voodoo making kit there, Emily.
Yeah,
And there was
I found
also-
the paper as well.
Yes, you found the
Yeah.
paper. You found the voodoo book paper, which was the stories that Deardrha writes. And I think you guys found some gold, but I don't recall if you guys actually did or not. I think you must have got something out of them.
Mm.
All I remember is consoling Jeb when Jeb tried to run away, and,
Yes.
run out of the house and try to flee. I was like, no,
Well,
let's just sit on the front steps and just talk about it.
Well, I think
While
Jeb
people are
did eventually run
inside.
away.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
we were just chatting for a little
Terrorizing
bit
them.
first.
And
Who
then
be the baddies?
no, you're the main
Oh.
characters. The main characters are never the baddies. They're always
Of
the
course
good
not.
guys. That's what makes them
Mhm.
the main characters.
Hmm.
Oh,
But you guys wait
God.
around at the house for a while, and Jeff never shows up, and you think it's because Jeb went away to warn Jeff not to show up to the house. And I think you guys just end up leaving with the stuff you stole, and then you start going back to Deirdre's, but that's when you find a hut with some glowing stuff going on. Do you guys remember this encounter? This was kind of like an offshoot encounter.
Was
Clay,
that
you're
when I
shaking your head.
dropped through the roof?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was
But
like
Clay,
a
you're
head.
yes. Yes, there was a summoning ritual going on inside. And you guys planned this huge ambush, and then there was a Cyrus-sized hole in the roof because Cyrus dropped down from the ceiling. And you guys killed all these cultists as they were attempting to summon a succubus, I think.
Right.
And Deardrha
Hmm.
told you about this and saying you got to watch out for the succubus and the incubus too. They'll get you. And then I think there was a comment about how Deirdre's had Clay, I think this is another good line you had where you're like, oh, Deirdre's had a run-in with the succubus before.
Yeah.
And there was this whole thing about how Deardrha was all offended that you'd like sexualize her in any way, because clearly Deardrha doesn't do that. When she wants to have a baby, she finds a baby and eats it. She doesn't like sully herself to that level of carnal urge, right? She's above that.
Mhm.
Of course.
Of course. Of course.
But I think that's where that session ends, and then you guys eventually get to her house, and Tifala's back with the party, and it's a big mushroom cap is her teleport to the Feywild, where she has this huge house. And you guys go hang out at her house, and it's this massive like hexagonal house with 6 levels. I think I described it as.
Magical.
And you guys basically like hung out there for a while, and I think it's there you had the soup that gave you the temporary hit points. But I can't remember when you guys had that soup. I think you guys had some kind of soup left. Went back to the regular world. I don't know if anyone remembers more about that Deardrha encounter. I don't want to sweep by it if someone has a memory they want to bring up, but
I feel like we should remember something.
I don't think it was the most memorable Deardrha session, because half of that session was the Black Cloak fight that you guys get teleported to, because you guys come back from the Feywild, then you call Tim and say, hey, we want to kill some Black Cloaks, because you guys are pretty sure to stop the cults, you need to kill Black Cloaks. So meanwhile, you guys are still getting very sidetracked about dumping off these items that you kind of were going to do, but you say, okay, Tim, teleport us somewhere where the Black Cloaks are. And Tim says, well, they're kind of all over the place. Do you want a specific location? You're like, no, just pick one for us. And then so I roll a d10 and pick 10 locations on the map where they are, and they're all of varying difficulty. So like 1 would have been the easiest, then going all the way up to 10, which was the hardest, which is what I rolled.
Right.
So you guys got teleported back to Craigshaft, and I said you find yourself in Sullivan's war room, which is the room where you had met him several times before, and you had the zone of truce at. And there was some Black Cloaks in there, and you guys had this huge Black Cloak fight.
No,
and then Wolder
who-
McSwirlyhats was there. He leaves with a time stop, and then hordes of undead start coming up the stairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I do remember this fight
Classic.
because I think Hannah was here and Tifala turned into some giant animal and squished people out of the
Yeah, that
the
happened.
room.
Yeah, and then Cyrus was the human shield in front of all the zombies. Someone used one of the scrolls that Tim gave you that was a wall of fire scroll, and you guys tried to separate out from the cultists, and then eventually everyone jumped out the window. And I remember this because Hexan jumps out and was like, yeah, I'm a monk. I can jump out of any window and it's fine. So you jump out the window,
Yeah.
and I think everyone else jumps out the window and just accepts the fall damage. And then you guys start running because I think you're chasing some Black Cloaks at this time, because some of them must have went out the window or something. But you're running to the center of town following some Black Cloaks for some reason.
Yeah, well, like they're like still doing some sort. We know that they're doing some sort of ritual, and it's like, well, we're on a timer then,
Yeah.
because we don't want
Yeah.
them to summon whatever it is that they're doing, so we have to hurry and stop them.
Yeah. So you guys do that, and then there's that session, and then there's another session that's that whole fight with you guys leaving and running up to the center of town, like the big bazaar town square you guys have been to before, and you see there's a huge stage set up, and you see Wolder McSquirlyhats is now at the center of the stage, and that's where we stopped that session. And then came our 5.5-hour session, where we did the one that I called the Great Summoning. And this was the session where Emily, your sister, joined us, and Riley came in for a portion of it. And Clay, I think you were away for this session.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah,
had we
I was
NPC'd
playing
Fargrim.
Clay.
Yeah. Fargrim
And
was a
I
huge
just-
MVP in that fight.
Because
Yeah,
he
I
was
think
hasted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was hasted. I think I had
Hasted
frenzied right
frenzy.
before.
And so you were just blitzing through everything.
Yeah,
Oh God.
I gotta look and see if I have pictures of that fight. I must, because I would have been sending pictures to you, Conrad, at least, and Riley too when he joined. So I'll post those. But that fight was massive because you guys had I had my spin downs as zombies. You were helping me keep track. There were different summoning spots as you guys were walking up, and different demons would come out. Like you had imps coming out. I think
There
there
was
was
the
incubuses
children.
that came out.
That was the children.
Oh, the
Oh
children.
no, I know. I just
So
thought
what
of that
happened?
and
We
I'm just
had we had the main party at the base of this. They were fighting through the hordes. Then Gremmgin and Daphne and I think also Hexan were running through the shops on the roof at the along the side, and you guys were beelining it for the stage. and I think Gremmgin gets there and then kills a kid because Gremmgin needs the blood to do summon Greater Demon.
That was
The greater demon didn't even do that much.
no.
So
It was
Gremlin
kinda
killed
helpful.
some kid for nothing.
I mean, I think it did help him kill a black cloak.
And
Yes, but I think
it
Fargrim
did
did
help a
lot of
little
that.
bit.
Yeah.
Fargrim killed more
Mhm.
black cloaks than the demon did, that's for sure.
True.
I
Checks
think
out.
Fargrim killed 2 black cloaks, and the demon
Yeah.
killed 0 black cloaks.
The demon
hit a bunch.
helped kill one of the black cloaks.
Well, we
Yeah.
all know it doesn't matter how much damage you deal; it only matters who does the killing blow.
True.
If you don't
True.
do the killing blow, you didn't help. That's a rule, right?
Samson
If you
That's
don't
pretty
deal
much
the
it.
killing blow, you didn't commit violence.
Yeah,
So-
That was
Cyrus
Cyrus's.
rules.
Yeah.
Um, but do you guys remember what happened at the beginning of every round during this combat for a period of time?
The beginning of every round.
The beginning of every round, I rolled a die behind the
they were
screen.
killing kids,
Oh
weren't they?
yeah.
They were killing kids. You heard childlike
Oh.
screams. And you're like, child or
Right.
childlike? And I'm like, you hear childlike screams. And
Yep.
I'll do a note. I have my page is almost full on all the reveals now, so
I'm pretty sure they
Um,
needed to sacrifice at least 17 children.
Mhm.
Joe's looking at me, spoiling things for myself now.
it's not really a spoiler. I think you guys knew what they were doing. But
Yep.
I do want to I'll show you guys on this because you won't be able to read it, but if I find the page quickly, I had planned out exactly because I knew it was going to happen because we had, gotten up to that point, but I had this huge or not huge, but I had a fully planned out counter of what was going to happen, and it was all up to the dice. It wasn't like me saying this is what's going to happen. It was very much of if you guys could stop them in time, things could have happened differently. If I rolled differently behind the screens, events would have transpired in different orders. So it was very much a let's leave this up to the dice and see what happens. Oh, there is the puzzle at Tim's house that you guys never did.
Man.
Nice.
It looks so good.
Aw.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, no, this is the page for all of the stuff with that whole session.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be in the reveal. I've marked it down as sacking kids.
Hmm.
Yep.
Sacrificing. I just didn't
Yep.
write the whole thing
Of
out.
course, of course.
Of
That's
course, of
exactly
course.
what you meant.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Um,
dark.
So I
It's a
think
short
I've
form for killing children.
look, it's not me that did it, it's the evil cultists. Like, I'm a good guy.
I wonder if
Yep.
we killed all the
Believable.
kids, would that stop them from being sacrificed, or would that like be part of the sacrifice? wonder
I'll
if that
tell
was-
I'll tell you because
Stop
it's totally not a spoiler, but if you had killed all the kids outside of them getting to kill it, that would technically have stopped their ritual because they weren't doing the official sacrificial ritual, which was
Right.
dropping the kids into the cauldron that had the special summoning fluid.
You know,
So,
there's lots of
it-
ways to accomplish the same result.
Yeah, more than
Yep.
one way to skin the cat or child in this case, I guess.
Oof.
Nope.
Oh,
No.
that was a little too dark there, even for the
That was
DM.
too
Yep,
much.
yep.
Was not
I
expecting
think we
that.
should move.
Well, so
what's
there was
it?
the important thing here where you guys tried to use the stones to call Tim when you were still in the war room, and you were like, "Get us out of here!" And then I think I gave the no caller dial up tone as like a doo doo doo. The caller you're trying to reach is unavailable at this time. And then you tried again during the great summoning for Tim to get you out of there, and Tim's just like, "Oh, I can't teleport you guys more than once a day. I'm sorry about that, but I'll see what I can do." And then the combat finishes, McSwirly Hats cackles in maniacal laughter and then vanishes, and the shadow demons clear from the sky, and it becomes light again. And you guys are confused on what happens, but you kill off the rest of the cloaks that aren't able to teleport away, and the demons that have been summoned seem to dissipate. So it looks like everything's fine. And then Tim flies in on an eagle, and it's like, I'm here to save the day now that everything's done with.
What a jerk.
Yeah. And that's where you guys also met the second leader of Craigshaft. Does everyone remember her name? Who came to greet you immediately after this
Sally.
fight? Sorry?
Sally.
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 Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Does anyone
Hey.
Does anyone know her last name? I don't know if she ever actually told you guys, but she has a last name and it's in the combat tracker. Or not the combat
Does it?
tracker, the NPC tracker.
I just looked now and I didn't know that.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
know.
I don't think she ever actually formally introduced herself other than Sally, because so when I planned that session, it goes back to my rule. Anything I plan, you guys never do. Like that big puzzle I showed you. I planned for you guys to work with her like you worked with Solomon Goodman, and boy, I was wrong.
Why did we all hate her right away again?
I think Emily classically said, as soon as you see any NPC, and I love it because it's almost like a catchphrase when I listen to every single session in 9 days, I hear you say insight check. And honestly, I live for it every time. I know what's happening if I throw an NPC at you. It's like insight check. And I think you rolled a 2. And you're like, I want to see if she's the worst. And I was like, yeah, you think she's the worst. In fact, you're not even going to listen to her explanations because you just think she's a terrible person. And it was because the way she
Yeah.
talked about people that were sympathetic to cultists, she was very unsympathetic to those people and thought they were the cause of all the problems in the town. I thought that was a very validated opinion to have of those people, considering that
I think
90%
it
of the town died.
For me, it was like that the people were just like trying to live their lives while they're being oppressed by this cult.
Yeah.
And then rather than understanding that, Sally was sort of blaming them rather than the cult for their deaths, which I thought was
And
pretty cruel.
that's perfectly valid, and in hindsight that was also one of the undertones I wanted her to have, was having this kind of like vitriol nature. So it could have gone both ways, and you guys took it that way, and you know, we roll with the punches here. We don't
Sorry,
railroad. We just let
Sally.
you guys do whatever you want. So
Well, and then there
you-
was the time that we came back and there was a statue of her.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty messed up. She
That
made a
was kinda
statue of
weird.
herself.
well, okay, so we'll come to that. So you talk to her, you don't like her, and then you decide that you need to figure out where what's going on, what just happened. So Tim flies off and doesn't help at all. And then you guys are trying to figure out what just happened with this whole summoning ritual. Did Okris just get summoned or did he not? And you guys go on a mission to kind of find that out. So you go to Tim's house, you break into Tim's house. Do you guys remember this?
Yep.
What did you guys find when you broke into Tim's house?
So
The
many
map?
totems.
Conrad,
Yeah.
what'd you say?
I said the map.
Yes, you guys found a map and there was a location circled on it. Do you guys remember what the location
The
was?
mansion.
The mansion. As I referred to it
I
on the bubble map I
see.
sent, the vampire mansion, because there was a shit ton of vampires in that mansion.
Yep.
Right.
Who are, if you guys didn't know, undead. So, and you guys knew at this
What?
point that Okris likes undead. He hates living people, likes undead people. Those are his kind of people.
Fair enough.
And I think, oh no, Tim, when you guys were there, was not completely unhelpful, gave you rings that would let you know if undead were present within 120 feet. And if you
Mhm.
flip them and put them on the other way, it would be fiends. So that was the helpful item that Tim gave you. And Clay, I think this is around the time when you were on hiatus for a while, because you guys got to the mansion and you guys met the undead horrors, which was my homebrew super powerful zombie, which in hindsight I think was a bad homebrew monster, and I wouldn't throw at you guys anymore because it was very much like a get an 18 or higher on your deck save or take damage.
But
It was rough.
we got a bunch of good gear right before that because we kind of wandered around. We found those bunkers just
Yes.
outside, and they were
Yeah.
filled with like that's where I got my magical axe and things like that.
Yeah, they were
I-
filled with a whole bunch of magical weapons. That's right.
I think somebody got a rapier that played
The
music.
Bardic Rapier, yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
all got one, didn't we?
There
I
were a
didn't
few
take
of
one.
them.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
Fargrim was just like axe. I want axe.
Gremmgin definitely took one of the magical rapiers because Gremmgin definitely used a rapier because rogue. And I think
Yeah.
Emily, you might have taken one too,
I'm
because
pretty
I
sure
don't think I ever
Cyrus
used
took
it
it.
because I have my other
Ye-
sword. But
well, you got your pack blade, yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, we totally skipped over when you. Do you guys remember when you guys found out about about Ocris, you guys spent a night doing that. You guys basically stayed up nocturnally, and you found some of you went to the chapel and found out about Ocris, but some of you went to this smith who worked midnight hours and was open from 2 to 6 in the morning. And this is where you guys got the lead to wrap the rods in when you
Right.
originally got the rods. So
Yes,
this is
yeah.
going back a while now, but yeah, I totally forgot about
Yeah.
that. But that's how you guys got the lead. And Emily, you convinced him to buy your pack blade for like 100 gold.
It was like 180 gold or something. I forget what it was.
Yeah, I think
That's crazy.
he said 150 and you said no 200. And you guys landed somewhere in the middle, I think, from haggling. He was like, haha, I got a good deal.
And as soon as I'm gone, I'm like, yoink.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, that I just remembered that, but yeah, that happened back then. But you guys get to the mansion, you go to the bunkers, like Clay said. All the weapons were stored in molasses. I originally was thinking oil, but then I think Emily and Nicole thought it was molasses. I'm like, you know what? It's molasses. I don't even know if they have oil in D&D.
Because
So
we looked it up and like you
it would
could,
work.
yeah.
Yeah. It would do the same thing. It would keep the oxygen off the weapons, keep them from rusting. So why not? Molasses it is.
There must be
You guys have
massive sugar fields somewhere.
Somewhere.
Exactly.
You guys are in the grasslands, right? It's probably like somewhere
Yeah.
around here. They got a huge sugar
Yep.
field.
Exactly.
So then you guys go fight the undead horrors. There's that huge noxious gas that surrounds the area, so you guys get wax and shove it up your nose. You fight the
Yes.
undead horrors, and you're like, this is terrifying. And I think I was trying to toy around with the idea of sanity at this point. And I eventually ended up dropping it because it wasn't really working the way I had envisioned. I'm like, screw it. We'll just like keep it out of the system because it doesn't fit in nicely. But you guys ended up leaving, I think, because you were
We
what'd you guys
plugged
do
the
before you leave?
hole.
Yeah. Just remember
We,
Toilet
we
hole.
found the outlet sewer system, which I don't think was big enough for us to fit through. Maybe just.
Yeah.
But what we instead decided to plug the hole because it was leaking some green fluid, just like dribbling out. And so we're like, well, if we plug this, it'll just back up. And the mansion, like, they'll have some burst pipes or something at some point, and it'll cause chaos.
This took about 10 minutes of math. If I recall
Yeah, we were-
Yeah, there was
well, what-
we were all figuring out the math on how to convert the 5x5 cube into the cylinder size. We're doing all this calculus. People are looking up formulas. I'm like terrible at math for some reason.
trying to convert earth or whatever it is to
Yeah,
shove it
mold
into
earth,
the
yeah.
pipe.
And then
And then
Nicole
like
did it
close the
twice.
pipe around
Yeah.
it as well.
So I just realized we forgot one other point. You guys stopped at Mount Stables after you robbed Tim's house,
Right.
and you stole horses
the
from them.
carriage.
Yeah, or you stole, or you just kind of bought it. I can't remember if you stole or bought, but
We
I think you stole.
pretty sure we stole. We definitely stole the wagon.
Mm.
Yeah.
Or the carriage. But yeah.
You stole the carriage and I think one horse, and then went back up to where you had left Samuel and the horses, and then got him back along with your horses. And there was a brief moment where I'm like, all your horses are dead, and everyone's like, what? No. And I was like, all right, fine, no, the horses are dead. They're just sickly. And then you cured
Yeah.
wounds on them, or no, you laid on hands and got rid of their disease, and it was all fine.
Right. And
Yeah,
I think
that
I was
happened
using
first.
I was using Therdania for pulling the carriage.
Yes, you had re-summoned Virginia, and I think got her to be a horse.
Yes.
Yeah, because the way we did find steed, I kind of took it and then added a roll to it for fun so that you could get variable CRs.
Yep.
But you guys left the mansion after that fight and plugging the hole, and you went to the nearby city or the nearby town. I can't remember why. Do you guys remember why you left the mansion and went to the city?
I think we were like at a gate or something, and we're like, oh no, this is like, oh, we probably shouldn't, and we should get like a rest,
I
a
think we
long
wanted
rest.
to like talk to
This
the
was-
townsfolk after like we encountered the undead horror, and then we were like, no, let's not do this right now. Let's go to grasslands.
I think it was good
Yeah.
to get information or supplies or
Yeah.
It was definitely one of those, because Swap, you're thinking of the stairs you climbed up to get to the front gate, right? That's what you're thinking of? That was after you guys had
A
came
bit-
back.
No, there was also another like big giant wall, wasn't there? At some point.
This was when you guys came back the second time, because Tifala was here for
Okay.
this, and she wasn't there when you guys were first at the gate. 'Cause,
Right. I mean, to be fair, I think I missed a part of it as well when I was at the gate because I think I was like in the mansion, the
Yeah,
initial mansion bit.
you missed the finding Ocarus, which was the second time they went to Tim's house, so that's why you have no memory of Tim's house. And you also missed the exploring around the mansion perimeter, which is when they found the weapons and all that. But then there was the undead horror fight, and then the one I entitled "Dirty Holes and Shady People." I
Oh,
don't know
Okay.
why I called it that, but that's what it's called.
Well, there was those shady
Dirt.
people.
There were
I don't
shady
know
people.
why you had dirty holes.
I
it was
think it was
dirt
the bunkers. I think it
in
was
the
the
hole.
bunkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe.
I don't know.
I
That's just-
remember I do remember when we did get to the grasslands town, there was like we were trying to I was really obsessed with because they was doing some trading with a black shipping company, and I was really obsessed with trying to find out
Yes,
what
you were
the
gambling with
connect.
them.
Yes, I was exactly.
Yeah,
But then
because
I was
sorry, keep going.
oh yeah, no, that was like the one of the questions that I definitely wanted to find out because I was like, there's some connection over here, and I was like, I remember I wanted to get the books of the town, and like
Right.
trying to find out exactly if, are they supporting the cult in some way or
Right.
form.
Yeah.
All right, I'll write that down as a reveal. Black Shipping Company in Grasslands. So yeah, you were talking with them, and I think this town, if I remember, was mostly gnomes. I think it was mostly rock gnomes because that's what you're finding mostly out in the east was rock gnomes. It was a lot of tree gnomes in the west. And you guys, so Swap, you went and did that. You gambled with them for a bit. They had a lot of money.
Yes.
You threw, I think, a gold on the table and they kind of laughed at you. And then I think you put in 20 gold and they're like, okay, that's a respectable amount of
Yeah.
money to gamble with.
Yep.
And then meanwhile, Gremmgin went snooping, found this underground like basement, and there were some people talking about something. And Daphne goes off separately and separately finds the same bunker. And you go in too, and then like you guys don't see each other, and there's this whole thing where you both overhear the same conversation about how they want to overthrow the Baron of this town. And then you guys like I think you try to reach for something, and Gremgin's stealth is so good that he grabs it first, and you just like look away and look back and like, where was the thing I was trying to grab? Do you remember
And
that?
then I was disguised as a gnome, so he tried to like get me around the neck, but he was just like grabbing like my chest. And I was like, "Hi, Gremgin."
Oh God.
Yeah, and for reference, this town was super small. Like all the other cities you had been to were cities that had 1,000,000+ people in them, and then Magisburg was like a couple 100,000. It was still a pretty big area, but this was the first like actual like small little like town hamlet kind of thing, and it was like I think 4 or 6 city blocks and this one tall motte at the center, and that's where the Baron was.
Yep.
And I don't know if you guys remember this, but there were several times where different party members went up to the bot and demanded to be let in, and the guards kept letting you guys in. I think Swap, you went up the second time after Cyrus or Gremgin had gone in. He's like, twice in one day. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all we all split up to do our own thing. I think Cyrus went to go talk to the Baron, and then was just like everyone else sort of followed in later on.
I think
Yeah.
Cyrus tried to. He went like to the quartermaster to try to sell
Oh
a
yeah.
bunch of the armor.
I was like, oh, I got these really cool weapons and stuff I think you'd be interested in because like they were just in these bunkers. And they're like, those are ours?
Yeah.
Did you steal from us and now trying to sell it back to us? And
Yeah,
then I felt really bad and I just returned it all.
because the quartermaster explained to you that it was part of his brilliant tactical strategy of keeping the weapons at areas they think they'll have conflicts in hidden bunkers so that they don't have to trudge out with all the weapons. And I think you
Right,
point out it was
right.
a bad idea.
Because what if the conflict comes to your city? You don't have the equipment in your city.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I guess we just got to run away from our own town to get equipped and then come back.
So this was a debacle and a half that happened in here. Also an emotional roller coaster. I don't know if you guys remember all of this, but if you do, please let me know how you remember it because I would love to hear it.
There was the whole story about us like trying to help the Baron. He was like he's trying his best and like he's
Yeah.
doing you know, and then but then I think Emily and like Gremgin and Daphne were like, "Oh no, we want to support the people and like lead the revolution."
Because I think he was very belligerent and kind of angry, and he was always berating his aides and very, very much short-tempered kind of guy. He was not a
But
pleasant person, but he wasn't a bad person, I think was
Yeah.
but I think he was better than Solomon because he knew his shortcomings and relied on his other people. He was belligerent towards them, but he relied on his people and his experts.
Yep.
Yeah. He was a very good leader, not the best person to be around, but yeah. And I think
Yep.
that's why the people were rising up against him, is they didn't like him. They thought he was a mean person.
But then he was also like talking about like the droughts that they had had and like all this bad stuff that's happened recently, and like, well, they can't be mad at you for that.
yeah,
Because
he
then
was very
they were
much weathering
praying to
all
like
the
the farming gods or whatever. And I convinced
yes.
them to switch to the House of Zeral.
Yeah, there was a whole thing where you went and talked to one of the priests or religious figures in town, and they were telling you about their agricultural gods. And then Daphne, you asked him basic farming questions and you didn't know them, and then you're all sus of him. You're like, how do you not know basic farming? And he's like, I'm a clergyman. I know about religion that has to do with farming. I don't know how farming works.
You don't need to know farming if you just pray to the farming god and then they give you bountiful crops.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You still need to know how to plant the crops, though.
No. God will provide.
Exactly.
But so I think
Man.
there was a whole kerfuffle where he gave Cyrus some like notary of being someone that he trusts or something. Like I can't remember what it was he gave you. He gave you some like official letter that you were working on behalf of him or something. Do you
Yeah.
remember what it was?
It was just that. It was just a letter that he had wrote.
And then there was a point where Gremgin came in and said, the people that are about to come in want to kill you. Don't trust anything they have to say. Rolls well on the deception, of course. And then you come in and says like, I want that letter back or something. And then you're like, well, if you trust Gremgin, give it to Gremgin. And then he's like, that's a good idea. You take the letter.
Gives it to Gremgin. Gremgin's now the trusted one. I think
It
it
was
ended
also-
up back in my hands at some point, but I don't really
It
know how
did.
that happened.
It's because he's a flip-flopper a little bit, and there was a lot
Yeah.
of things that were changing his worldview. Meanwhile, Hexan's with Gale the whole time because you're trying to find out about
Yes.
the Black Shipping Company records. And that's when you find out that the town kind of has like a co-op agreement where everyone pitches in to get a bulk fruit deal, and then every member of the town gets some subsection of that fruit. And they don't sell it in town. They covet it dearly. They don't want to give up their fruit because they can't grow it where they are. It's just not the right climate because the DM
Yep.
decided so. Fruit
It's
grows
good
in the
enough for
desert. That
sugarcane,
means
but it's not good
Exactly.
enough for bananas. Okay.
look, if there's one thing we established
Bananas are
early on in this
temperamental.
campaign, bananas are
Okay.
temperamental.
Mm. So
I mean,
Okay.
as we all know, I know nothing about biology and rely solely on Emily to tell me how biology works every time it comes up.
Good.
There's one session later on where you ask me about the environment. I'm like, oh yeah, there's like plants and trees. What do you want to know? Yeah, super smart over here.
Yeah.
But so Gremgin then gets a deed because Gremgin's trying to say, oh, I know who wants to kill you, but you need to give me something. I want power or money. And then he's like, oh, I'll give you a domain over this small piece of land that no one's able to conquer, but you probably will be able to handle yourself. And then Gremgin becomes a count. And then I looked it up later. I think count is actually above baron in the hierarchy. But we'll go with it that it's not for this world. So
Totally.
also because it works out because very soon Gremgin gets bit by a vampire. So now if Gremgin does raise as a vampire, we have Count Gremgin, who's also Count Gremgin.
Nice.
Ooh.
So that's very fun.
That
And
is
also a side quest that could come up later in the continuation of this world is going to Count Gremgin's domain and seeing what's there.
Potentially
Yep.
freeing the people from the evil rule of the vampire that has taken up residence.
Well, I was
But I
telling
mean-
Nicole this. Sorry, go ahead, Swap first.
Oh no, I was just wondering, like, I feel like how much of our party actually knows Gremgin at this point? I guess it's Daphne.
Daphne.
And Fargrim.
Yeah,
Fargrim
Fargrim. Yeah,
too.
Daphne,
Yeah.
Fargrim, and Tifala, but Tifala kind of left. But still alive.
Still alive, exactly.
So what I was gonna say though is there are some like things that have happened that almost could be mini campaigns in and of themselves. One of them is I had this idea where there's some disturbance going on in this land down to the southeast, and the grassland has started scouting for mercenaries to go and explore because there's some weird activity going on. And the few we haven't heard back from the villagers and the what do you call them? The
Militia?
people on the frontier that went out and tried to cultivate the land out there from nothing. Settlers. Yeah.
Settlers, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole idea for the base of the campaign is, we need mercenaries to go see what's going on. We can't seem to get any reconnaissance back. People we send don't seem to come back. What's going on? So I think that would be a fun 15 to 20 session mini campaign.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an aside. So you guys eventually tell him about the plot to kill him. I think you guys end up foiling the plot somehow. I don't know if you guys remember how you did this.
Didn't I just persuade them at the end because they gathered at the tavern or something?
Yes, I think you did that as well
think
as
it's
he
not
went off
that
to his safe
bad.
house. I think there was something along those lines because you did talk to him at the tavern, but I can't remember if that changed the course. I don't think we ever actually saw what happened, but he went off to his safe house and you guys talked to them, and then you guys left town, and Gremmgin killed his brother because because he rolled poorly on the save, and then
Yep.
Gremmgin.
we all know what happens at
Gremmgin.
this point.
Yep.
I think he took him out to somewhere in the field and then just killed him and put the body off to the side. And
God.
Gremmgin's like, "Oh, do I recall how to dispose of a dead body because of that book?" I'm like, "Well, that book really was for the forest area, and you're in the plains, and it doesn't really have any good suggestions here." She also
Nice.
only read like a third of the book, so I don't think he actually knew everything about that. But that was everything that happened there. And then you guys go back to the mansion because there was a whole thing about the drought, like you said, 10 years ago, and that was a really bad thing, and they've been recovering from that. And no one had really, everyone thought the mansion was abandoned, was what you guys got. So no one knew about activity going on in the mansion. And he had been in power for 50 years. I think that was the other thing, but that doesn't really matter too much. He ran unopposed. There was a whole thing about the politics of this town, but it's not really worth getting into. It's not too super important because you guys never went back to grassland. So we never actually saw what happened with any of that. So it was like a 2-session divergent thing. And then you guys go back to the mansion. You have a bunch of fights with these undead horrors. You climb up the huge steps to these to the castle, or to this mansion, really. Manor. And the steps were big enough for a huge creature because I think they were 5 feet tall. So you actually had to scale the steps each time. You guys get there. You look. There was 2 chests though too. After you guys did that fight at the base of the stairs, one of them had a rod and some gems, and the other one had, I think, gold in it. Do you guys remember that?
Yes, and it was
the rod and the gems were in a secret compartment.
Yep.
In the chest.
Well, no, the gems I think were in the secret compartment, but the rod was just on the top, and then Gremmgin grabbed it before anyone had a chance. Just like at the end of the Craigshaft fight, there was also some chests there, and Gremmgin also got a rod there.
I think that with the one in the mansion, I think I found it and showed it to Cyrus, and we hid it from Gremmgin.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, because Gremmgin never used those rods and dies shortly anyway, so it doesn't matter who had the rod.
Yep.
Gremmgin dies soon. You guys get up there and you decide, we're not going to go in here. Let's fly up as a big dinosaur and then land on the roof of this thing. So you guys fly up. There's imps that attack you. We have our aerial combat, which I think everyone enjoyed. And then you guys come down onto the roof, and then Hexan with his sage background realizes, I don't think this roof was actually meant to hold a dinosaur's worth of weight, or even an adventuring party worth of weight. I think it was meant to keep the rain out and maybe hold some pigeons, but not this much weight. And then
I got down first, and I remember I did the fighting, and then they come down with the dinosaur, and I'm like trying to figure all this out, and we still tried. I remember you tried opening the window or tried to break through the window.
Like, punching because
with
my
your
intelligence was like a 1 or whatever as the dinosaurs. I'm just like trying to punch the window.
Yeah, because you were the Quetzalcoatl. What someone who's actually able to read.
Quetzalcoatlus?
Kuru, yeah.
The kuru.
Yeah, the thing that's low enough CR but large enough that it can hold the party and fly.
Yeah.
So you beat the pane of glass until it breaks with your beak, and then you guys go into the mansion. At which point, Tifala and Gremmgin are greeted by a man that's very pleasant and says, "Welcome to the manor. May I take you and show you around?" And then you guys go into the room where you meet Rutherfordus, and he's very interested in drinking lots of wine at 9 a.m. apparently. And he's like an old,
My
I
type
think
of
I just,
guy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hexan was all for it. Because it was back at the bar in Grassland that you then started becoming fond of alcohol again.
Yep,
It
exactly.
wore off and then it kind of came back. And then it came back a little bit harder because when you guys were at the so when the summoning happened, so after that event, yours and Gremgin's eyes started glowing green like the summoning fluid, and that stayed. But then when you got to the mansion, your voice started having a echo of a demonic voice, kind of like an overlay. And here's
Yeah.
something that's important is when you guys, before you actually approach the mansion, there was this whole, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot this.
Oh no.
Emily, do you remember when you tried to take the cursed items off of Gremgin?
Yes. Yes.
I remember
Right.
Cyrus trying to do that as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that
Remove curse.
was the second time you guys went to Deardrha's, and I'm like, what happened here? I feel like nothing really eventful happened.
That's what happened. Yeah.
So
That's
this
what
was right
happened.
after we're jumping around a little bit, but that's because like, there's a lot of things that happened and we're gonna forget some. I'm gonna forget some. And you tried to remove this and you nearly die. Your face gets all droopy. You get like lightning bolted a whole bunch of times. You try and remove curse, but it doesn't work.
Yep.
And didn't someone tell you what you needed to do at one point? Wasn't there an NPC that said that this is too like the magic bonding, this is too powerful?
I don't think so.
I seem to recall an NPC saying, I don't think you can remove this with anything less stronger than a wish.
Oh.
Remember.
Okay.
I
I have a
remember you saying to us, whether that's just your as like character insight sort of thing, that remove curse is not good enough and it needs something much more powerful to break this bond. I don't know if there was ever a specific NPC though.
I remember there is like, I remember listening to the recording where some NPC, I can't remember who it was, said to the party that the bond between this item and the person seems too powerful. I think you need nothing less than a wish will remove the bond here.
Was it maybe
Indicating that
Tim?
whatever.
I think it was Tim.
Yeah, I think it was
This
Tim.
sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah, that would have been Tim.
Mhm.
That's right, because that lines up with the timeline, because that was right before the time you went to Craigshaft and killed Solomon, and by you I mean Gremgin, and then you guys went to Tim. Yeah, so it would have been Tim who
Yep.
said this. Yeah.
Yep.
So
And I
after
feel
I
like
had already tried it and almost died,
Yes.
and then Tim told us that, and it was like, great, thanks.
Yeah, because what
Always
happened
helpful.
so what reminded me of this is because I'm like, something happened in the bunker the night before you guys went in there. And what happened was that Cyrus tried to do this too, and Cyrus nearly died.
Yeah.
And the reason I remembered it is because Tifala on her watch heard a big boom crash in the middle of the night. And she wanted to go check out what it was. Like it was this thunderous boom that cracked off in this clear night where there's no thunder or lightning. Nothing like that is happening. Huge boom cracks off. And she's like, oh, I'm going to go get Cyrus and wake him up to explode this with me. And you're like, Cyrus is almost dead. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to grab Hexan instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if anyone figured out what that big boom was, because that's a reveal too.
I thought that it was the fact that we had blocked the sewer pipe and it actually did something, but I guess not.
It's not the sewer pipe. I did the math on the sewer pipe, and it hasn't had enough time to build up enough pressure to be a problem.
Fine. So what you're
'Cause I
saying is
know-
it will be a problem eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember like the size and scope of that mansion, but I described it as being like, I think 3 times the size of the White House, and it had this huge courtyard as well. So this is a massive, massive property. And the pipe was at the outskirts of the pedestal that this property was on. So there's quite a distance of pipe at this diameter of 3 feet.
I
Okay,
would
but,
also
like-
imagine that there's more than one pipe that.
It's also,
Mm.
now you guys know, full of undead who don't need water or the toilet. So there's that too.
Vampires do though. Oh well, do
No,
they?
they're undead.
No.
No, they have undead nature. They
I
they
always
don't
wondered
sleep,
about
eat, or-
this, just logistically, if vampires do have to excrete, because they would
Like
still
if
be
they
like,
drink blood, like
And
Yeah,
they
but
that's-
drink
blood's 0
wine.
calories.
Yeah, but where
They
does the
sweat it
mass
out.
go?
about calories.
They sweat it out. It's fine.
Just get the blood sweat.
They have a
It's like-
special vampire trait that lets them remove excrement from their body without doing anything.
Mhm.
Because like I don't think they would
Clean
poop,
your face.
but I
Sorry.
think they would. I don't think they would poop, but I'm pretty sure they would excrete. Like this is just. It's just what I'm
If
thinking.
it-
I'm pretty sure
if it's-
vampires have to be.
Like, if something's going into their stomach, something has to come out. You can't
Well-
absorb everything.
Like,
But
there's
if
gonna
you're a
be some
vampire,
waste in there.
So a vampire needs to drink blood because they can't produce their own red blood cells. Is that the thing? So
You know what?
So if that's the case, then their old red blood cells are dying and they have to be, expunged somehow.
excreted.
Like where
Maybe
are
they just
the
throw up
it
every
goes
time.
in one tooth and out the other tooth.
ooh, they like siphon out the
That's
good
how it
blood?
works.
There's like a
It's
little
like-
filter in the teeth.
Like, not like biting and then sucking on the holes. They're just like, and then like,
And then they do the filter. It's
yeah, it goes
Yep.
in.
It's just a
and then
dialysis machine.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Except it's like reverse dialysis. They're getting all the nutrients they need out of it and then excreting what they don't need.
There we go.
makes total sense.
Well, I'm glad we figured out vampire biology, guys. Proud of us.
That's great.
Oh boy.
They also
Oh.
so high in iron that it would really probably do.
That's why
things
they're
with
so
their kidneys.
strong. Iron, strong bones, right? I think, maybe. I don't know.
No.
No, no.
They can fly
Calcium.
because iron is magnetic, and the magnetic field of the earth allows them to fly.
Right, it's actually just magnetic
Ah, that's
propulsion
how
from
it
the earth.
works.
There we go.
There we go. There we
Makes
go.
so much sense.
The
Oh.
iron just builds up into a little ball of metal, like when you have all the aluminum foil that you're
Yeah.
putting together.
They just got a ball of iron in their gut.
So I think because we're coming close to the time we have slotted, we'll if you guys are willing, we'll summarize the mansion and then we'll pick it up another time from there. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Yep.
So you guys go in there, you all find Rutherfordus, who starts offering you wine and then starts saying it's very impolite if you refuse wine, which some of you were doing.
Yep.
And
Well,
well,
two of our party members were in jail.
yes,
Yes.
they got arrested. Well, one of them was. I think Gremmgin got arrested for trying to stab and they took him away. Do you remember why Gremmgin got thrown in jail?
No,
The
No,
first
I
they
think
were
it's both
both-
of them. They just
were-
got
they-
escorted.
They were
right?
escorted into a room and they were locked in there, and then Tifala wild shaped into a tiny creature to escape.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
said, "Oh, I'll come back for you." And then I think Gremgin made his own way out.
Yeah, Gremmgin used, I think, the shapeshift ability to look like a cloak or a cultist, asked to be let out, high deception, let out, killed the guy, came back upstairs. And I think Tifala was a bug and then kind of went through the kitchen, came back into the room, and then tried to crawl in the guy's ear, but then he felt the bug because you feel a bug on your face, slapped the bug, killed the bug because the bug has like 1 HP, and then she just appears next to him as a full Aarakocra. And then I think
Yes.
Gremmgin comes back in and then starts stabbing him repeatedly, and no one is attacking him because he's not attacking anyone. And Clay, this is when you came back in for one session. You're like, why is no one attacking this guy?
I
Yeah.
think this is when I was
We were
just
all
standing there
charmed.
like casting Witch Bolt and calling him a creep, and Gremgin was stabbing him, and Cyrus was like, "You guys are being so rude.
This is my
Yeah,
new
because we were all
friend.
I don't
charmed.
believe this."
Well, because he charmed Cyrus, right? And then he was
Yeah.
trying to charm the rest of you. But Swap, you had a thing that let you end conditions on you on your turn. so you're ending
Yeah.
the charm condition. And I
But that
think
would get
Emily,
charmed again.
yeah, and then you get charmed again. And Emily, I don't think you or Gremmgin got charmed. And then the
No,
whole time
yeah.
this is going on, Tifala is trying to poison him using some vials she got at like session 1, I think. She had bought some blue vials from someone. I had forgotten that this happened because this is now like the session this happens. When is this? This is like where's Meet Rutherfordus? Oh yeah, here
It's
it
a
is.
Meet the Manor Masters.
Yeah, Meet the Manor
Sometime-
Master. So that was a year and a half almost after. It was like just over a year since that first session. I'm like, I do not remember what these do.
Yep.
But I think I made them like a low level kind of like paralyzation or something. And I think he succeeded on the save or something. He might have had legendary. No, he doesn't have legendary resistances, I don't think. I don't think the vampires actually did.
I
But
think you explained
Yeah.
it as being like a very low level
Yeah.
poison that
Yeah.
was fit for when we were like level 1 and we got them.
Yeah.
And then it just was nothing by this point in the game.
it
Yep,
wasn't gonna hurt the CR13 vampire for sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep.
But you guys did that, and then he introduced himself to you guys, and I think because Gremmgin kept stabbing him, you guys exited combat, and then I just let Gremmgin do like mass rolling for stabbing him over and over again. And then you guys didn't know at the time because I don't think you were certain he was a vampire yet, but he just kept being able to regenerate 20 HP every turn. So Gremmgin would hit him for like, I don't know, around like 20 to 30, and then he just heal 20. And then he hit him for like
Yep.
20 to 30 and just heal 20. And it's just like whatever you guys dealt, he just healed it because you guys weren't all piling on.
Yep.
And then I think he got Gremmgin to lean in, and that's when he started clamping down on Gremmgin's neck, because Gremmgin came in voluntarily. And that's how Gremmgin died as a vampire. And then the guy flew, and then I think because there were vampire summons that were coming up, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
And they took Gremmgin's body
Right.
out of the room, and he kind of vaporized into a mist. And I think Hexan remembered, because of his sage background, that if a vampire goes into a mist like that, it's just the way they transform. They're not dead. But you guys never saw him again.
Yep.
Cyrus bolted out of the room in a furious rage, be like, Gremmgin!
Yep.
And then you went
Good
down to the
times.
room, and that's where you guys met the butcher, which was
A big
quite
vampire.
the gruesome sight.
Yep.
I basically described it as a slaughterhouse, but for humanoids.
Yep.
And there was a guy eating a humanoid leg like it was a turkey leg.
Mhm.
And
And there
there
was
was
just a
Pretty
bunch of
messed up,
other
Joe.
vampires.
Hey,
I know.
I didn't do it. I didn't make the cultists. I take zero responsibility from this.
Sure you did.
Sorry, the DM is saying I didn't do this.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it, man. Let me.
Okay.
Oh god.
So you guys were in this fight, and then Hexan, I think you were running in there to save, and there's basically like the whole session was just this combat of you disengaging, and the vampires could grapple instead of attack
Oh
or
my
something.
god.
So they
Yep.
had
That was
they could
annoying.
grapple as a reaction is what it was. So you'd pass
Yep.
by them and they'd try and grapple you.
Yep.
But I think there
Yep.
was a monk thing that we realized later where you could have avoided the grapples by spending key.
Yeah, I could have, but I think this is then what ended up happening was Tifala ended up, or someone ended up summoning a lot of wolves or something, and then we kind of managed to get
Tifala and I
away.
both summoned a bunch of little creatures to help us out, and then we just
Yeah.
ran away after grabbing Gremmgin.
That fight definitely took a while because we did. I remember. Oh my gosh, was it Daphne who tried to save the? Or what? No, that was later on.
That was something else.
That was something else. Okay, with
Yeah.
the in the cages, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This
with
one,
the
I
But
cages.
thought that Flapflap was here and had turned all of the undead, and so the vampires had run away.
Flapflap was here at this point because as soon as Gremmgin died, when you guys were going and Cyrus was in that rage to find Gremmgin, Flapflap had dropped in and said that an Aarakocra dropped him off, and you guys came with Flapflap, and he did turn undead, and I think he turned some of them, which helped with that fight. But basically, you guys were able to leave the manor with Gremmgin's body, and then you buried Gremmgin just outside the manor in the area which wasn't completely just full of death and destruction. Because in that haze, I think all the life was dead. That haze that you
Yep.
guys needed the nose plugs for. So you guys buried Gremmgin there, And then Cyrus gave last rites, and we thought you did the spell that would stop Cyrus or stop Gremmgin from being risen, but then we realized you didn't have the components, so you just said all the words, but it didn't actually happen.
It was still a ceremony. It just wasn't
Yep.
the ceremony.
Yep.
And that was the first character death,
And
followed
then
by the
immediately-
second character death
Shortly
immediately.
afterwards, there was an
Shortly after.
explosion.
Yeah, because you guys were looting Gremgin's body, and then the question came up, what about the amulet that two party members had tried to remove and almost died? And then I think, Swap, you wanted to try a new character. You were kind of done
Yeah.
playing Hexan, so you had talked to me about how to send Hexan off, and I'm like, oh, he can just retire or something, but I guess you had a
Yeah.
different idea.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just take the amulet.
Yeah, so you just
And
rip
then-
it off and then explode into a million pieces. Yeah, I don't
And
think you
that
were there
was
for
really
that
the
session.
way that we got the 2 cursed items that were attached to party members off of the party members.
I think that was the
They
fitting end
had
for
to
the
die, yeah.
Yep, they did have to die.
I
I think
will
we were
say
too
that-
discussing it.
Yeah. Until that point, sometimes I would suggest ways to clan Conrad that we could kill them if we had to.
Oh, we had a separate group chat.
Yeah, no.
Wait, was I not a
Wait,
part of this
what?
group chat?
No.
No.
We
Wait,
gotta let the
what?
DM be in on it. Come on, he's gotta know your
Aw.
plans.
The DM can also metagame though.
Because in all
Has
fairness,
to have
I feel like
secrets.
yeah, Emily and I also, sorry, not Emily, Nicole and I also had our own discussions on how to make sure that we keep the curse items. So
Fair enough.
You know, I'm okay with you guys doing a lot of things, as you know, but removing DM omniscience, that is unacceptable. This is a reveal for the DM. And that concludes part 2 of our 4-part series on recapping a 2-year-long campaign I ran with all my friends called Raiders on the Wall. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, as there might be a little something in it for you, like more videos. You can also follow the Eddie Proudfoot podcast on Instagram, Spotify, or Twitter. And as always, may the gods have mercy on your soul.